Chapter 857. Seeing Wu Lu enter the Mai cave, Bei Lu's eyes flashed with pride. There was competition between the 5 experts of the lone deer tribe, and they didn't have a harmonious relationship. Mei Lu, who had the best relationship with Wu Lu, shook her head helplessly when she saw Wu Lu enter the great ritual cave. Soon after, the other 3 experts left as well. To them, Wu Lu was already a thing of the past. After killing a powerful lonely deer beast, it had yet to recover. After flying for a long distance and crashing through the Mai cave entrance, the little azure dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder looked extremely weak. It was gnawing on a leaf from the world tree. There was no light in the Mai cave. Northern Cliff took out a rune magic treasure that was used for illumination from his storage ring. It emitted a strong light, like a several kilowatt light cannon. The distance of 100 meters in front and behind the cave was clearly visible to their eyes. The Mai cave wasn't naturally formed, but rather created by intelligent creatures. The cave was filled with rune mechanisms. After advancing less than a kilometer, Yang Tian had already broken through 9 mechanisms with the help of the strange program. It was deciphering, not destroying. Yang Tian was not sure if Wu Lu would catch up to them. The 9 rune mechanisms they passed might not be able to stop Wu Lu's pursuit, but it would at least slow down Wu Lu's movement. These 9 mechanisms had clearly been damaged before, but after a long time, they had repaired some of their functions. This also confirmed that the rumors outside were true. Before Yang Tian's group, there had indeed been experts who had entered the Mai cave. The formation mechanisms were arranged very closely together. Every 100 meters or so, there would be one. When Yang Tian's group passed through the 9th mechanism, Wu Lu had also entered the Mai cave. After walking for some distance in the cave, Wu Lu made another turn and encountered the first layer of rune mechanism. This was a mechanism that used spatial energy. When it was triggered by Wu Lu, the surrounding spatial energy fluctuated, forming a strange spatial bubble. Wu Lu wasn't sensitive to rune energy, so he crashed into it. The spatial bubble he came into contact with burst, exploding like a bomb. The spatial tearing force caused the other spatial bubbles to explode one after another. More and more spatial tearing forces superimposed, creating a powerful destructive force. Wu Lu was swept up by this force, and his body was randomly pulled. If he couldn't withstand it, he would be torn into countless pieces. This kind of destructive power was simply too weak for Wu Lu. With a thought, his defensive strength suddenly increased, and he suddenly accelerated, easily passing through the spatial force field. As he sped forward, Wu Lu encountered a second rune mechanism. It was also spatial energy, but when he triggered it, the surrounding space froze. If one wasn't strong enough, their body would instantly be compressed under this spatial force field. Yang Tian's black hole force field was dozens of times stronger. Wu Lu, who could resist this force field, easily passed through it. However, the frozen space made his movements slow down. It took him at least 3 minutes to get there. On the other hand, Yang Tian used less than a minute to pass this stage. As more and more mechanisms appeared, Wu Lu became more and more shocked. He originally thought that he could quickly catch up to Yang Tian's group, but after passing through several barriers, there was no trace of Yang Tian's group. In other words, Yang Tian's group was moving faster than him. This made Wu Lu suddenly realize that at least one of Yang Tian's group was a Talisman Dao expert who could easily break through the mechanisms in the cave. In the upper echelons of the lone deer tribe, there was a saying that the Mai cave hadn't been broken because they didn't have a Talisman Dao expert. Under special circumstances, none of the other beasts who entered this mysterious cave cultivated the Talisman Dao. Based on this understanding, the lone deer tribe had sent at least tens of thousands of intelligent young lone deer beasts to other islands to cultivate the Talisman Dao. However, not a single one of them was outstanding in the Talisman Dao. Although the astral beasts were strong, they couldn't compare to humans in some aspects. Other than beasts like the Megaji monarch, the most powerful Talisman Dao figures in the astral sea were almost all humans or half-beasts. After realizing that there was a Talisman Dao expert among the 3 chasing them, Lu couldn't help but think of retreating. It would be very difficult for him to catch up with the various mechanisms. However, the moment this thought appeared, it was obliterated by Lu's resolute will. The most basic psychological quality to become an expert was to have a firm goal. No matter what difficulties one encountered, one couldn't give up. Moreover, Lu also knew that even if he gave up on chasing Yang Tian's group, it would be very difficult for him to find the way back. In the legends of the Lone Deer tribe, the Mai Cave was a forbidden area. Once one stepped through the stone door, the path of retreat would disappear. After passing through 6 mechanisms, Lu finally took out his weapon. A red bone hammer appeared in his hand. If this red bone hammer was enlarged several times, its shape would be exactly the same as the one Yang Tian had obtained. After easily passing through 9 mechanisms, they advanced another 1,000 meters before a strange cave entrance appeared in front of Yang Tian's group. This was a flat circular entrance. The top and bottom of the cave entrance were full of protruding spikes. In the bright light, these white spikes were like 2 rows of teeth. The entire cave entrance was like a giant mouth. Yang Tian's group stopped about 30 meters away from the entrance. At this time, they could see that the ground below Yang Tian's group to the entrance was covered in a layer of broken bones. "It looks very dangerous," Bea murmured as he stood behind Yang Tian, staring at the entrance. Hui Chanchan said, "It looks very scary. It's like a giant mouth. If we go in, will we be entering the mouth of a mutated beast?" After the two of them finished speaking, Yang Tian didn't say anything. For a moment, only the sound of the little blue dragon gnawing on the world leaf echoed in the cave. Yang Tian focused his mind. With a thought, a strand of his mental power slowly approached the cave entrance. This strand of mental power successfully passed through the frightening cave entrance and entered. What appeared before Yang Tian's eyes was a blue space. This space was circular and about 100 meters in diameter. It was filled with countless spikes that emitted blue light. The spikes were very dense, and only one person could pass through the gaps. Yang Tian was about to let this strand of mental power go in deeper to examine it more carefully when he suddenly lost contact with this strand of mental power. After the mental power disappeared, a powerful rune energy fluctuation suddenly came from the depths of the cave. Before Yang Tian and the rest could react, a powerful suction force appeared and sucked Yang Tian and the rest into the cave filled with blue spikes. Chapter 858. Chi, Chi, Chi. After Yang Tian and the rest were sucked into the cave, the countless blue spikes in the cave were swept up by the chaotic energy and flew through the air, making ear-piercing screeches. Yang Tian and the rest were swept up by the violent energy and mixed with the countless spikes. The spikes were like sharp knives, cutting Yang Tian and the rest bodies. If it wasn't for their protective energy, they would have been sliced into countless pieces by the rapidly moving blue spikes. Other than the spikes flying at high speed, the pressure in the surrounding space also became stronger. The spikes' flying speed did not decrease under the solidifying spatial energy, but instead became faster and faster. After a short moment of panic, Yang Tian released a powerful spiritual energy and brought Bea and Hui Chanchan into the protective range of his spiritual energy. In less than a minute after being sucked in, Bea and Hui Chanchan's bodies were covered with wounds. If not for Yang Tian's timely rescue, the two of them would have been dismembered in a short while. As the spatial energy became stronger and the blue spikes flew faster and faster, Yang Tian's energy consumption also skyrocketed. Ever since they were sucked into this space, the strange program started to collect the rune energy in this space and started to calculate. Before the results were out, Yang Tian could only grit his teeth and endure. According to the speed of the energy increase, they had less than 5 minutes left. Fortunately, the strange program did not disappoint Yang Tian and quickly came up with a result. This is a rune array that can increase its attack power infinitely. It won't stop unless we can leave this place or get killed by the rune array. Otherwise, it will continue to increase its energy until the entire rune array collapses. This rune array was a killing rune array. If the intruder could not escape successfully or was killed, or if the rune array's energy was too strong to continue, it would not stop. After hearing the strange program's calculation, Yang Tian smiled and said, Wu Lu got lucky. He said this because to escape from this rune array, they had to destroy it. They could not pass through the rune array like before and preserve it. Yang Tian's power was not enough to support the strange program to calculate a perfect solution, so he could only destroy it. Within the area created by Yang Tian's mental power, Bea, Huey, and Chanchan were not harmed at all. When they saw the countless blue spikes being blocked by an invisible force, they could not help but feel a chill in their hearts when they thought of the previous situation. This kind of glyph array was really too terrifying. After being sucked in, they immediately lost their sense of direction and didn't know where they were. Their eyes were filled with the blue light of flying at high speed. Their bodies were also moving uncontrollably along with the surging energy. The invisible pressure they felt was so strong that it was as if it wanted to compress them into a single point. It was extremely difficult for them to even move a finger. The blue light formed by the spikes was like countless knives, constantly slicing at his body. When they saw the energy released by Yang Tian gradually being compressed and the safe zone rapidly shrinking, the two of them felt as if their hearts were about to leap out of their throats. Perhaps in the next moment, they would be shredded into pieces by the countless flying spikes. Under such circumstances, Huey Chanchan was better off because she saw that Yang Tian's expression was very calm. On the other hand, Bea, who did not know much about Yang Tian's methods, could not help but smile bitterly when he felt that he was getting closer to death. As time passed, although Yang Tian believed in the strange program's power, he could not help but become nervous because the mental power he released was almost unable to block the pressure outside. The more dangerous the situation was, the longer it felt like time was passing. After an unknown period of time, the strange program's voice finally sounded under Yang Tian's anticipation. The talisman master who set up this kind of glyph array isn't as brilliant as the Zhaoji King's talisman path. It's actually so easy to break it. For the first time, Yang Tian felt that the strange program was too long-winded. However, after listening to it, he slowly calmed down. Just as the strange program's voice disappeared from Yang Tian's mind, a three-dimensional image appeared in Yang Tian's vision. As soon as the image appeared, Yang Tian moved. Whoosh! Yang Tian threw out the blue sword in his hand, and it flew past Bea's ear. The blue sword turned into a blue light and merged into the countless blue lights outside and disappeared. Bea turned around and looked at Yang Tian in confusion because this did not seem like a way to break the glyph array. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. Next, a blinding blue light appeared, causing Yang Tian and the others to squint. At the same time the blue light shone, the surrounding pressure and violent energy suddenly disappeared. Without the support of the energy, the three of them fell and collided with a hard object. When their vision recovered, Yang Tian jumped up from the ground. What appeared in front of them was a huge cave. The size of the cave was about the same as what Yang Tian had seen with his mental power. After breaking the glyph array, the blue spikes formed by the runic energy disappeared and turned into countless broken bones. The blue spikes were illusory, but the broken bones were real. Yang Tian, Bea, and Bea were standing on the thick layer of broken bones. Yang Tian had seen all of this with his mental power. Without the blue spikes, there was no light in the cave. The entrance that they came from had been sealed. The little blue dragon that had been lying on Yang Tian's shoulder opened its mouth and spat out a golden ball made of dragon flames into the air, lighting up the entire cave. After spitting out the flare, the little blue dragon and little green tortoise that had been lying in Huey Chanchan's arms landed on the layer of broken bones at the same time. They enlarged their bodies and began to dig. The environment in the cave was very dry, and the broken bones were like porcelain pieces, letting out a series of clattering sounds. Yang Tian knew what the two were doing and could not help but laugh. Bea and Huey Chanchan's eyes widened. Just as they were about to ask, they saw the little blue dragon poke its head out of the pit with a fist-sized, colorful beast core in its mouth. Yang Tian reached out and sucked the beast core into his hand. He observed it carefully. Now, Bea and Huey Chanchan understood everything. The glyph array just now had killed countless powerhouses that had entered this place. After they died, their energy crystals, which were the beast cores, were left behind. After such a long period of time, who knew how many experts had died here? The broken bones they left behind piled up in a thick layer in the cave. When Bea saw little green tortoise poke its head out with a beast core of the same size in its mouth, he yelled and took out a shovel-like tool from his storage bracelet. He ran to the side and found a random place to dig. Tomorrow, 5 update guaranteed. Chapter 859. Yang Tian looked at the colorful fist-sized beast core in his hand. He was surprised to find that there was a very thin layer of transparent film on its surface. He could easily scrape it off with his fingernails, and energy could be released from the gaps in the film. Yang Tian finally understood why he couldn't sense any beast cores under the bone layer. Only exotic beasts like the little blue dragon and the little green tortoise could smell the scent of beast cores. Bea didn't have this ability, so his efforts were destined to be in vain. They dug 3 pits that were 5 meters deep, all the way to the rocks under the bone layer, but they didn't find a single beast core. The little blue dragon and the little green tortoise seemed to be in a competition. They dug into the pile of bones and pulled out a beast core every few minutes. After working for half an hour, Bea angrily threw the tool in his hand far away. He finally understood that the beast cores under the bone layer weren't something that could be dug out by luck. Pah! The shovel that Bea threw landed on the bone layer not far away, making a crisp sound. Suddenly, a strong wave of energy came from the shovel. The 3 of them turned around at the same time and looked in that direction. The energy wave under the bone layer was getting stronger and stronger. Ha ha! Bea was stunned for a moment, then suddenly laughed out loud and ran towards the shovel. Obviously, the shovel that he threw out casually most likely hit a beast core, and the film that formed naturally on the surface of the beast core was rubbed off. However, Bea was happy too early. Before he reached the shovel, the little green tortoise suddenly popped out from under the bone layer, almost knocking Bea away. Little green tortoise came out from under the bone layer with a blue crystal the size of a football in its mouth. "This is mine. This is mine." Seeing this, Bea went up and hugged the blue crystal in the little green tortoise's mouth, crying out sadly. The little green tortoise shook its head and knocked him to the side. Afterwards, the little green turtle raised its head and swallowed the blue crystal before sucking Huey Chanchan into its stomach. After finishing all this at an extremely fast speed, little green turtle retracted its 4 limbs and head into its thick, solid turtle shell. A moment later, energy fluctuations that were sometimes strong and sometimes weak were emitted from the little green turtle's body. "I found this on the spot. You stole my beast core." Northern Cliff had finally found an invaluable beast core, but it was snatched away by the little green turtle. He was furious, so he jumped onto the little green turtle's back and stomped on it, wanting the little green turtle to return it to him. "Don't move," Yang Tian said. "That blue crystal shouldn't be a simple beast core." Bea jumped down from little green turtle's back and sighed helplessly. Yang Tian smiled and tossed a colorful beast core that the little blue dragon had found to Bea. "This is for you, to make it up to you." Bea took the beast core and chuckled, embarrassed. "I was just playing around. This place is too oppressive." Yang Tian nodded and looked around. Earlier, he had used his mental power to scan the area, but he couldn't find the exit. It seemed like this was a place where one could enter but not exit. However, the strange program had sensed the faint energy fluctuations of runes in the cave. It was collecting and calculating. Although it couldn't find the exit, Yang Tian was still vigilant to prevent Wu Lu from suddenly barging in. Wu Lu was already here. This was something that the strange program had already confirmed. When Wu Lu broke through the formation, Yang Tian could clearly feel the rune's energy fluctuations. Evidently, little green turtle had entered a state of cultivation. Stronger and stronger energy fluctuations were emitted from its body. More than 10 minutes later, the little green turtle's shell actually lit up and emitted a faint green halo. Bea took out the fist-sized beast core that Yang Tian had given him and put it into his storage ring. He was very excited. He was afraid of being poor. Ever since he left Source Island, he had never obtained such a high-grade beast core. The owner of this beast core was at least an expert on the same level as Wu Lu. If he could absorb the energy of this beast core, his cultivation would definitely increase greatly. Seeing Bea's excited appearance, Yang Tian smiled. Now that we have time, teach me the common language of the Star Ocean. Bea nodded and put away the beast core in his hand. Learning a language was very simple for Yang Tian. All he had to do was remember the grammar and pronunciation. Bea started from the common language, and Yang Tian followed along and basically memorized it. Even if he couldn't remember it, he still had the help of the strange program. It recorded the entire process of Bea's teaching and analyzed the language. The little blue dragon didn't stay idle. It kept moving under the bone layer and only stopped after several hours. There were basically no more beast cores under the bone layer. Previously, Little Green Turtle had found a total of 5 beast cores. Including the blue crystal, there were 6 beast cores in total. As for Little Blue Dragon, it had obtained a total of 73 beast cores. These beast cores were of different sizes. The smallest was the size of a thumb, while the largest was the size of Yang Tian's fist. The blue crystal that Little Green Turtle had obtained was probably the most valuable one. Thus, it stopped searching and immediately started absorbing the crystal's energy. In a few hours, Yang Tian had learned the common language of this world. Just as Yang Tian was trying to communicate with Bea in the new language, Little Green Turtle changed once again. Its shell that was emitting a green glow suddenly dimmed as its head, tail, and 4 limbs slowly extended out. It then opened its mouth and let Huey Chan out. Huey Chan was sitting in a lotus position with her eyes closed. Her body was emitting the same green glow as the previous turtle shell. She looked extremely holy. After looking at Huey Chan, Yang Tian suddenly noticed that Huey Chan's temperament had become more mature. It was as if she had suddenly grown up by 5 or 6 years. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud noise, and the entire cave shook. Next, a figure descended from the sky and landed on the bone layer in front of Yang Tian. Wu Lu had finally appeared in front of Yang Tian. At this time, Huey Chan opened her eyes as well. The moment she opened her eyes, Huey Chan's body began to emit a powerful ripple of energy. Wu Lu, who had suddenly appeared, was shocked and instinctively took a step back. The strength of the ripple of energy surprised Yang Tian as well. That was because Huey Chan's energy had caught up to his. This speed of improvement was too insane. In Wu Lu's eyes, his main opponent was still Yang Tian. While he did not understand how Huey Chan had suddenly become so powerful, he quickly turned his attention to Yang Tian and said calmly, "You can't run away. I will take you out of the Mai cave and send you to the altar." Yang Tian shook his head and smiled as he said in a foreign language, "We can't go back. Don't you know that the Mai cave is a place of no return?" Chapter 860. Can't go back. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Wu Lu unconsciously frowned. He was even clearer than Yang Tian on this point. The reason why it took him so long to reach this place was because Wu Lu had tried to go back once. When he broke through the 9 rune mechanisms, he thought that the entrance to the Mai cave would appear. Unexpectedly, what appeared in front of him was a completely sealed passage. The entrance was nowhere to be found. Unwilling to give up, Wu Lu continued to dig for hundreds of meters, but he still couldn't dig through the Mai mountain. In the end, he could only give up helplessly. Seeing the change in Wu Lu's expression, Yang Tian smiled and said, "Why don't we find a way out together? After leaving the Mai cave, we can fight to the death. How about it?" Wu Lu was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Okay. However, if you want to plot against me in the process of finding a way out, then don't blame me for not keeping my promise." Yang Tian smiled. "I'm not the kind of person who doesn't keep his word." Facing the sudden appearance of Wu Lu, Yang Tian was so calm because he was confident that he could convince Wu Lu. Just as Yang Tian expected, he managed to settle Wu Lu with just a few words. As for after leaving, he could only think about it when the time came. At this time, Chan Chan looked at Wu Lu with vigilance in her eyes. She had just obtained a powerful strength, so she had an impulse to compete with Wu Lu. However, she also understood that although she had power, her combat strength was not very strong. She had not experienced a decent battle since she had grown up. The little blue dragon received Yang Tian's instructions and flew into the air, spitting out a mouthful of golden flames. When the pile of bones at the bottom of the cave came into contact with the little blue dragon's dragon flames, it began to burn. Under the burning conditions, although the temperature in the cave was getting higher and higher, it didn't produce a large amount of smoke. In less than 10 minutes, the broken bones in the center of the cave were completely burned, turning into a small amount of white powder. The little blue dragon opened its mouth and spat out a stream of air on the ground in the center of the cave, revealing a talisman formation diagram. Below the pile of bones, there was a flat black slate. The array glyphs were engraved on the black slate. The diameter of the array was about 10 meters, and it was perfectly round. In the middle of the circular rune energy line, there were countless tiny runes, numbering in the tens of thousands. Yang Tian jumped down from the pile of bones and landed beside the glyph array. He slowly walked around the glyph array. For a moment, his attention was completely focused on the glyph array under his feet. Wu Lu also landed to the side, frowning as he looked at the array. Hui Chan Chan hugged the small green turtle and kept her attention on Wu Lu. Clearly, she didn't trust Wu Lu. What kind of talisman array is this? Bea, who had been following behind Yang Tian, couldn't help but ask after Yang Tian circled around the array. When Bea asked, Wu Lu also lifted his head and looked at Yang Tian. This is an ancient teleportation glyph array, Yang Tian said indifferently. However, it has suffered some damage. It was probably destroyed by the experts who were trapped here. They probably didn't know it was a teleportation glyph array and couldn't activate it. Can it be repaired? Bea asked again. If they wanted to leave this place, they could only rely on the teleportation glyph array. The environment in the star sea wasn't like the universe. Although the celestial bodies in the universe were constantly moving, the trajectory and speed of their movements were relatively easy to calculate. Therefore, it was very easy to create a teleportation glyph array. However, the star sea was different. The speed and method of movement of the islands were very difficult to calculate. To figure out, one would have to spend a lot of time observing. Therefore, there were very few teleportation glyph arrays between the islands in the star sea. Even if there were, they couldn't be activated at any time. Therefore, every teleportation glyph array in the star sea was relatively precious. Yang Tian was silent for a moment. After getting an answer from the strange program, he said indifferently, "It can't be repaired." The moment Yang Tian finished speaking, Northcliffe could not help but sigh. Then we can only wait for our deaths here. Wu Lu, who didn't understand runes, looked at Yang Tian and frowned. If Yang Tian couldn't find a way to leave this place, then he would make sure that Yang Tian died by his own hands. Don't worry. Unexpectedly, Yang Tian smiled and said, although we can't repair it, we can use the coordinates of the teleportation glyph array to create a teleportation glyph array. Fortunately, the runes that recorded the coordinates of the teleportation glyph array weren't destroyed. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Bea lay on the ground and opened his eyes wide. His eyes were filled with tiny runes that looked like they had been carved out with a needle. A portion of these runes were complete while the rest had been destroyed by scratches. Because the runes were so small, a finger-wide scratch was enough to wipe out a large portion of the runes. Looking at the places where the runes had originally been, Bea finally understood why Yang Tian said it couldn't be repaired. After being damaged to this extent, it would be easier to carve another teleportation glyph array than to repair it. The strange program already had enough runes to design a perfect teleportation glyph array. The little blue dragon spat out dragon flames once again, causing the high-temperature dragon flames to roll along the ground. The black stone with runes carved on it quickly melted, and the traces of the teleportation glyph array gradually disappeared. The hardness and heat resistance of the black stone were stronger than ordinary alloy materials. Ordinary stone would quickly vaporize when it came into contact with the little blue dragon's high-temperature dragon flames. The little blue dragon controlled the dragon flames and rolled them on the ground over and over again. It was like grinding a stone, making the black stone smoother and smoother. When the little blue dragon retracted the dragon flames, the black stone had already turned into a black mirror. It was incomparably smooth and could even reflect light. When it cooled down, Bea touched it with his finger and left a clear fingerprint on it. Next, Yang Tian took out a rune brush he had obtained from the Hui clan from his storage bracelet. He used his mind power to control the brush and began to carve runes on the smooth black stone. Strange runes appeared on the black stone while Yang Tian stood there without moving. Wulu looked at Yang Tian with a complicated expression. He was thinking that if he didn't kill Yang Tian and brought Yang Tian back to the Wulu tribe, the tribe would definitely become stronger. In the tribe, 10 more experts like him wouldn't increase their strength by much. However, if they had a talisman expert like Yang Tian, the lone deer tribe's strength would increase greatly. Although Wulu didn't know much about Talisman Dao, he knew that this person's attainments in Talisman Dao were unparalleled in the entire galaxy. It was Yang Tian's first time using his mind power to control the rune brush to carve runes. In the past, his mind power wasn't strong enough and couldn't support it for long, but it was different now. Using his mind power to replace his hands would allow him to carve runes faster and more accurately. Chapter 861. 3 chapters in 1. As time passed, Yang Tian's expression became more and more focused. Apart from the rustling sound of the rune pin on the black stone, there was no other sound in the cave. Even Wu Lu held his breath, afraid that he would disturb Yang Tian. He knew that if Yang Tian could not leave this place, it would be even more impossible for him to do so. In such a special environment, his powerful combat power was not as useful as a small rune pin. The rune array designed by the Strange program was much simpler than the original rune array. This was because this rune array only needed to be activated once and did not need to exist for a long time. On the other hand, the previous rune array not only had the ability to teleport, but it also needed to constantly absorb energy and change according to the environment. It was much more complicated to design. To a bystander, time passed very slowly. However, Yang Tian, who was focused, did not seem to feel the passage of time. When he finished carving the rune array and put away the rune pin, more than 50 hours had passed. Every rune on this newly completed rune array was much larger than the previous rune array. It seemed very simple. When Yang Tian put away the pin and did not place any energy bodies to provide energy for the rune array, the entire rune array emitted a faint rune energy wave. After carving the rune array, the next step was to test it. Yang Tian's mental power enveloped the newly completed rune array and formed a rune array diagram in his mind. The Strange program called up the drawing and overlapped it with the design drawing for comparison. The Strange program was very satisfied with the result. Yang Tian's runes were within the margin of error. This kind of testing method was probably unimaginable by other rune masters. Is everyone ready? We'll be going to an unknown place. After completing the inspection and receiving the approval of the Strange program, Yang Tian smiled and said, Huey Chan and Bea nodded happily, but Wu Lu was silent. To him and Yang Tian, perhaps the battle to the death was about to begin. After he witnessed Yang Tian's ability in the Tao of Talismans, his confidence in defeating Yang Tian weakened slightly. At this moment, Yang Tian looked relaxed because he already had a way to deal with Wu Lu. Yang Tian glanced at Wu Lu and took out 3 thumb-sized colorful beast cores from his storage bracelet. He placed the 3 beast cores into the 3 grooves on the edge of the array. Once the charm array had enough energy, it slowly lit up and released a faint blue light. As the charm array absorbed the energy of the beast cores faster and faster, the blue light also became brighter and brighter. Let's go. Yang Tian said indifferently. He was the first to walk into the array. Then, Huey Chan Chan carried Little Green Turtle and stepped into the array with Bea without hesitation. Wu Lu frowned as he watched Yang Tian and the other two disappear into the blue light. He hesitated for a moment before walking in. The teleportation process was very fast. As soon as he entered the array, the situation outside the blue light suddenly changed. It was still a cave, but it was no longer black. Instead, it was red, a rusty red. After the teleportation, Yang Tian and the other two immediately walked out of the array. At this moment, the array was still in a state of teleportation. After a few seconds, Wu Lu appeared in the rune array. However, just as he was about to walk out of the array beneath his feet suddenly extinguished and lit up again. Wu Lu was shocked. He stomped his feet on the ground and rushed out of the teleportation array that had just been activated. During this process, he saw Yang Tian raise his hand and push him. Strangely, Yang Tian's hand did not release any energy. After exiting the array, Wu Lu let out a long sigh of relief. He had almost been teleported back just now. If he had returned to the cave, he was sure that he would not have been able to come out again. Wu Lu, you've lost. Seeing the lingering fear on Wu Lu's face, Yang Tian said indifferently. Wu Lu was unconvinced. You used a charm array to plot against me. Yang Tian smiled. I didn't. You were one step too slow. How can you blame me? If I had used my strongest power just now, I could have stopped you from coming out of the array. In just the blink of an eye, you would have been teleported back. Then, you would have discovered that the array I drew had already been destroyed. Wu Lu knew that Yang Tian was telling the truth. He frowned and said, Then why didn't you do that just now? If you had known, I would have killed you. Yang Tian sighed. I don't know why, but I hesitated just now, just like you hesitated. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Wu Lu snorted and said indifferently, Then I'll save you again, and then I'll kill you again. After saying that, Wu Lu no longer looked at Yang Tian. Yang Tian could not help but laugh. At this moment, he let out a long sigh in his heart. He was telling the truth to Wu Lu. Originally, he could have stopped Wu Lu and let him return to the cave. However, when he was about to make a move, he had a strange feeling in his heart, so he hesitated for a moment. It was this hesitation that prevented Wu Lu from being teleported back. From the beginning of the teleportation, the process and time of the teleportation were all precisely calculated. According to the plan calculated by the strange program, Wu Lu definitely could not have escaped. However, no matter how precise the calculation was, it could not calculate the psychological changes of a human. Yang Tian naturally believed Wu Lu's words. The cave was not big, and there was a faint red light shining in from the outside. Yang Tian and the others followed the red light and arrived in front of a sealed stone door. The light came from a hole the size of a finger. Yang Tian used his mental power to inspect it, and was surprised to find that the hole was slanted upwards and was thousands of meters long. Looking at the traces on the wall, it should have been carved out by insects. If there were insects, it meant that there was most likely life in the outside world. It was a livable island. The stone door was about 3 meters thick. It was very dense and had runes on it. After inspecting it, Yang Tian retracted his mental power and punched the stone door. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The stone door trembled, and the entire cave shook as well. A large amount of broken stones fell from the ceiling. With Yang Tian's strength, a normal stone door would have been broken through by him. However, this stone door did not even leave a mark on it. Most of the power was absorbed by the rune on the stone door. When Yang Tian attacked the stone door, a powerful rune energy wave exploded in the cave. The strange program that read the rune energy told Yang Tian that this was a hidden rune design. To break the rune formation, they had to go outside. Let me do it. Seeing that Yang Tian could not break through the stone door, Wu Lu walked up and said to Yang Tian. Yang Tian nodded and moved to the side. He said to Wu Lu, Use your strongest strength. Wu Lu did not say anything. He stood in front of the stone door and closed his eyes. About 5 seconds later, Wu Lu opened his eyes and punched out. Boom! With a loud sound, the sturdy red stone door was shattered by Wu Lu's punch. Behind the stone door was the mountain. Even with the rune formation covering it, it was still broken through by Wu Lu's punch. A tunnel that was dozens of meters long appeared. Yang Tian finally witnessed Wu Lu's strength. In his mind, he could not help but think of the Saint Seiya that he saw when he was young. This punch made Yang Tian realize that he did not know enough about Wu Lu's strength. After using his strongest punch, Wu Lu's face was not red, and he was not out of breath. He looked outside and walked out. "What are you waiting for? Let's go." Yang Tian looked at the stunned Bea and said. He then entered the tunnel that Wu Lu had opened with his punch. After exiting the cave, Yang Tian and the others arrived at the waist of a mountain. Below their feet was a steep cliff that was thousands of meters above the ground. One couldn't see the end of these spine-shaped mountain peaks, one after another. In the sky, there was a luminous object the size of a millstone. It emitted a bright light and a scorching temperature. It was like a star in the universe. Yang Tian was all too familiar with this kind of environment. It was just that his field of vision was not wide enough, so he could not be sure that he was on a huge planet. This was simple. With a slight movement, Yang Tian shot into the sky and transformed into a huge dragon. He quickly flew forward. The little green tortoise in Hui Chanchan's arms grew bigger. Hui Chanchan leaped onto the back of the little green tortoise, moved her limbs, and flew into the sky. "Hey, wait for me!" Bea cried out in panic and jumped onto the back of the little green turtle. Flying was too easy for the lone deer tribe. With a whoosh, a pair of wings sprouted from Wu Lu's back. With a light flap, Wu Lu's body soared into the sky and flew towards Yang Tian. Yang Tian flew very quickly. He kept flying at a low altitude in a straight line, constantly leaping over sharp peaks. After an unknown period of time, Yang Tian finally stopped and landed on a 2,000-meter tall mountain. This was the mountain where Yang Tian and the others had first appeared. Yang Tian had flown in a straight line and returned here. This proved that this world was indeed a sphere. In the sky, there was no star. Instead, it was a runic treasure that was suspended in the sky of this world. It was motionless, illuminating half of the sphere with light. On the other side, about 1/3 of the sphere was pitch black. Yang Tian landed and transformed back into his human form. Hui, Chanchan, and Wu Lu, who had been following behind him, also landed. "I didn't sense any other life forms," Yang Tian said indifferently. Bea's face was bitter. "Yang Tian, I want to know how to leave this place and return to the Origin Star." Ever since Bea had been saved by Yang Tian, his experiences had been thousands of times more exciting than before. Although the journey before had been dangerous and difficult, it had never been like this. He had gone from one hopeless place to another. If this continued, Bea was sure that he would either get used to it or go crazy. Of course, he also understood that this was the experience of the strong. A small character like him might never experience this in his lifetime. Yang Tian pretended not to hear Bea's complaints. At this time, Wu Lu raised his hand and pointed to the left. "There's a strange mountain in the distance." Yang Tian said, "You mean that mountain with a flat top and a smooth surface?" Wu Lu nodded. The group flew up again. This time, Yang Tian was carried by the little blue dragon, so their speed was even faster. In less than 10 minutes, Yang Tian and the rest landed on the top of a strange-looking mountain. This mountain was more than 3,000 meters tall. The top was flat, and from afar, it looked like it had been cut by a giant knife. At the top of the mountain, there was a huge stone tablet. It was about 10 meters tall and stood at the edge of the mountain. The tablet was full of runes. Only a strange program could understand these runes. Yang Tian looked at it carefully and said, "This is a warning tablet. It tells us not to touch any round objects here and not to go deep underground. This was left behind by a talisman master who came here by chance." In the galaxy, runes were the common language, but few people could recognize them. "Why?" Hui Chanchan asked after Yang Tian finished speaking. Yang Tian shook his head. "It didn't say. The guy who carved these runes probably did it to arouse our curiosity." Then let's go down and take a look. After saying that, Wu Lu walked to the center of the mountain peak and stomped his foot. Bang! A hole with a diameter of 2 meters appeared under Wu Lu's foot. Yang Tian couldn't help but admire Wu Lu's keen senses. He actually discovered this tunnel that extended all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Yang Tian had to use his mental power to discover it. Perhaps it was because of the promise from before, but Wu Lu always went first when they encountered dangerous places. After opening the entrance, Wu Lu only glanced at Yang Tian before jumping into the cave. Yang Tian immediately followed. The bottom of the cave was almost perfectly straight. The group of people fell down along the cave wall. In less than a minute, they reached the bottom of the cave. The temperature in the cave was very low. It was at least minus 10 degrees Celsius, while the temperature outside was at least 40 degrees Celsius. After Northcliffe landed, he couldn't help but shiver. The cave was filled with faint green light. It was all emitted by football-sized spheres stuck to the wall. There were also green spheres on the ground. If one looked from afar, they were densely packed. Wu Lu, who was the first to arrive, was squatting beside a green sphere. He frowned as he looked at it. Yang Tian glanced at Wu Lu and then looked around. This underground space was very wide. The top was small and the bottom was big. The tunnel that led from the top to here was in the center of this underground space. Were these things? I've never seen them before. Northcliffe suddenly asked curiously. Most of the creatures in the Star Sea had never seen them before, but Yang Tian felt that they were very familiar. He said, "They seem to be insect eggs." Insect? Northcliffe exclaimed when he heard Yang Tian's words. Yang Tian shook his head. "I can't be sure, unless we open one of them." As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, Wu Lu raised his hand and placed his palm on the green sphere. Suddenly, the green ball lit up and made a gurgling sound. Then it suddenly split open and a red head poked out from inside. Wu Lu reached into the green sphere that was not completely cracked open and pulled out the creature inside. It really was an insect. The shape of this insect was like an elongated scorpion. It had a triangular head, 2 large pincers on its forelimbs, and a sharp tail that looked like a curved needle. Squeak, squeak, squeak. After being pulled out by Wu Lu, the insect began to squeak and struggle. Not only did it use its pincers to clamp down on Wu Lu's arm, but it also used its tail to stab at Wu Lu's arm. Unfortunately, with its weak strength, it could not pierce through Wu Lu's skin. Pot! Wu Lu used his strength and crushed the insect in his hand. A large amount of green liquid burst out. Hiss! Suddenly, Wu Lu let out a pained gasp. He swung his arm twice. At this time, Yang Tian could clearly see that Wu Lu's entire hand suddenly turned black. The black color quickly spread toward his arm. Wu Lu immediately raised his left hand and cut his right hand that had turned black. A large amount of black blood flowed out from Wu Lu's hand. As the black blood flowed out of his hand, Wu Lu's hand slowly returned to its normal color. When Wu Lu grabbed the insect, he must have used his energy to protect it. But that green liquid was able to pass through Wu Lu's energy and enter his blood. What a powerful poison. You must be careful. After getting rid of the poison in his hand, Wu Lu said with a serious expression. At this time, Bea was completely stunned. When Yang Tian saw Bea's expression, he asked, "It's just an insect. You don't have to be so scared, right?" In Yang Tian's mind, the insectoids were not as strong as the humans or the beasts. But Bea shook his head and said, "You say that because you don't understand the insectoids. A long, long time ago, the strongest race in the galaxy was the insectoids. Although they weren't strong individually, their reproduction ability was terrifying. If an insect sneaks into an island, it will go underground and live on the ores underground. During this process, their numbers will increase exponentially. When they reach a certain number, under the command of the insectoid king, they will come out from underground and occupy the entire island. This is the terrifying insectoid tide." The situation described by Bea was similar to the insectoids that Yang Tian knew. When he finished speaking, Wu Lu said, "You're wrong. Actually, the insectoids are very strong individually. The strong ones among them also possess extremely high intelligence. What's even more frightening is that they will constantly learn as they battle with their enemies. Kakik. Before Wu Lu could finish speaking, the cave was suddenly filled with kiki sounds. This was the sound of a large number of insectoid eggs breaking. Compared to Yang Tian, Wu Lu and Bei, you were creatures that were born and bred in the universe, so they were much more fearful of the insectoids. Let's leave this place quickly. Once all the insectoids come out of their shells, we'll be in trouble. Bei gritted his teeth. Wu Lu didn't say anything, but nodded. Yang Tian said, "The guy who set up the monument outside wanted to lure us here. If we want to leave, we'll have to go deeper into the insectoid cave." Wu Lu obviously understood this. After Yang Tian finished speaking, he turned around and walked toward the crack in the rock ahead. Other than the straight passage that led them here, this crack was the only way out of this cave. Wu Lu led the way. The group carefully stepped over the dense insectoid eggs and walked into a narrow crack that could only fit one person. This passageway seemed to have been formed naturally. It sloped downwards, and the further one went, the lower the temperature became. The incubation of the insectoid eggs probably had something to do with the temperature. Because there was a hole in the ceiling, heat was transmitted in, causing the insectoid eggs to hatch. The sides of the crack and the ground were also covered with insectoid eggs. Because of the low temperature, there were no signs of them hatching. After walking for an unknown amount of time, a series of rustling sounds could be heard from behind them. It was obvious that a large number of insectoids had caught up. Other than the sound, Yang Tian and the rest also sensed a warm current of air coming from behind them. The air current was mixed with a strong stench of blood. Yang Tian didn't need a guess. After these insectoids hatched, their bodies would emit a strong heat, causing the other insectoid eggs to hatch immediately. As more and more insectoids hatched, the temperature in the cave would also increase. Wu Lu, who was walking in front, seemed to have realized this as well and increased his speed. After walking for more than 10 minutes, the space in front of them finally widened. Finally, Yang Tian and the rest arrived at a vast underground cave. Yang Tian estimated that they were already a few thousand meters underground. The temperature had already dropped to -50 to 60 degrees Celsius. The insectoid swarm behind them had already been left far behind by Yang Tian and the rest. However, it was only a matter of time before the insectoid swarm arrived. The ceiling of the cave was very high. The glowing insectoid eggs stuck to the ceiling looked like stars. The ground and the walls were also densely packed with insectoid eggs. Looking ahead, there was a huge insectoid shadow in the distance. A huge insectoid. Wu Lu paused for a moment. A pair of wings appeared on his back, and he flew towards the huge shadow. The insectoid eggs on the ground were too densely packed. He could only fly over. Yang Tian and the rest quickly arrived in front of the huge shadow. It really was a huge insectoid. This insectoid's appearance was exactly the same as the insectoid that had hatched before. However, it was bronze in color. It looked like it had a metallic texture and was very hard. The insectoid was over 50 meters long, and its body was covered in a thick layer of ice. Below its body was a teleportation platform that protruded about a meter from the ground. It was also covered in a layer of ice. It seemed that if they wanted to use this teleportation platform, they would have to melt the ice. For Yang Tian, this was very simple. However, once the ice melted, the insectoid would definitely wake up. This is actually an insectoid king. Wu Lu suddenly said after staring at the insectoid for a long time under the faint green light. "What's an insectoid king?" Yang Tian asked curiously. The insectoids in the Star Sea were clearly different from the ones Yang Tian had seen. Wu Lu said, "It has extremely high intelligence and can fight against those fellows in the divine realm. Even if we can't leave this place, we can't let it wake up." After saying that, Wu Lu stroked the layer of ice that froze the giant worm. He put his hand to his nose and sniffed. This isn't ordinary water. There's a kind of medicinal liquid added to it. Chapter 862. Obviously, the talisman formation could only be activated by melting the ice. However, once the ice melted, the terrifying insect king would be released to Yang Tian. This was a problem that was almost impossible to solve. Even if he used the talisman formation, he was not confident that he could kill a creature that could fight with a deity. From the looks of it, Wu Lu would not allow Yang Tian to release the insect from the ice. What does the creatures in the Star Ocean have to do with me? Yang Tian thought bitterly as he glanced at Wu Lu. For a moment, everyone was silent. After a while, Wu Lu was the first to move. He leaped onto the insect king's back, gathered all the strength in his body, and punched the ice with his fist. Bang! There was a loud sound. There was no mark on the ice, but Wu Lu was thrown into the air by the strong force. After tumbling a few times, he smashed onto the ground, almost crushing an egg. Wu Lu stood up and shook his head helplessly. Even with Wu Lu's strength, he could not break the ice and hurt the insect king. Yang Tian knew that he could not do that either. However, if pure strength was not enough, he could try attacking the insect king's spiritual body. Yang Tian took out Red Knife 15 and slashed at the insect king dozens of times. 15's blue knife chi broke through the ice and entered the insect king's body. However, there was no reaction at all. If this insect is so powerful, who sealed it here? Hui Chanchan asked curiously when she saw that Wu Lu and Yang Tian's attacks were useless against the insect king. Yang Tian and Bea both shook their heads. Wu Lu did not say anything. Obviously, he did not know either. The person who could freeze the insect here must be of an unimaginable level. Perhaps it was one of the strong people from the realm of the gods. As time went by, a series of rustling sounds could be heard. This was the sound of insects crawling around. For some reason, Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that voice. He and Wu Lu could not hurt the insect king. Only by melting the ice could they see the talisman formation under the insect king's abdomen. If Wu Lu was not here, Yang Tian would have asked the little blue dragon to melt the ice and let the strange program read the talisman formation. It would not take too long. Perhaps they would have escaped before the insect king woke up. Wu Lu would not allow Yang Tian to do that. Now that a large number of insects had crawled in, the insect king would definitely be released by its cubs. After hearing the rustling sound, Wu Lu's eyes were filled with helplessness. Then, he immediately turned around and flashed to the entrance, trying to stop the insects from entering the low-temperature cave space. Wu Lu took out his bone hammer-shaped weapon and fiercely smashed it on the entrance of the mountain crevice, causing a thunderous boom. The smashed boulders quickly blocked the naturally formed rock crack. But this was only temporary. There were many insects outside. It was only a matter of time before they entered. After temporarily blocking the cave, Wu Lu did not leave. Instead, he turned around and looked at Yang Tian. "Xiaolong, let's do it." Although he could not see Wu Lu's eyes, Yang Tian knew what Wu Lu meant. He said to the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon transformed into a giant dragon and flew into the air. It opened its mouth and spat out a stream of hot dragon flames, enveloping the insect king in golden flames. The temperature in the cave rose at an extremely fast speed. The ice that froze the insect king had been added with some stuff. Even under the high temperature of the dragon flames, the melting speed was very slow. In a sizzling sound, the insect eggs nearby began to make a GGG sound. This was the sound of the larvae tearing at the shell. Soon, they would come out of the egg. The insect king's head had not been unfrozen, but the surrounding insect had already come out of the shell. Bea used his heavy machete and cut the insects that had just come out of the shell into two. Hui Chanchan also got busy. Hui Chanchan, who had become stronger, raised her hands and flicked her 2 fingers. Invisible energy shot out from her fingertips and hit the insects that had just come out of the shell, causing green liquid to explode. But there were simply too many insects. Bea and Hui Chanchan could not handle them all. Strangely, the hatched insects did not attack Yang Tian and the others. Instead, they crawled towards the insect king. Once the insects touched the little blue dragon's dragon flames, they immediately turned into black powder. Even so, they continued to pounce towards the hot dragon flames. Seeing this, Yang Tian had an idea. He said to the little blue dragon, "Shao Long, wait." The little blue dragon immediately stopped spitting out dragon flames. When the dragon flames dissipated, the insects crawled onto the ice layer that had frozen the insect king. Their bodies shook and turned into green flames. This kind of green flame gave people a cold feeling, but it emitted a high temperature. Although it could not be compared to the little blue dragon's dragon flames, the speed at which the green flames melted the ice layer was much faster than the little blue dragon's dragon flames. Yang Tian stopped Bea and Hui Ichanshan. More and more insects gathered towards the insect king. After breaking through Wu Lu's seal, the insect that entered the cave also crawled towards the insect king. It turned out that these insects were not chasing after Yang Tian and the others. They were here to save their king. Wu Lu sighed and gave up on killing the larvae. The ice layer around the insect king was quickly covered by the burning larvae. The ice melted into water and quickly seeped into the ground. The temperature in the cave became higher and higher. More and more insects were hatched. In less than 10 minutes, the temperature in the cave had risen above zero. Yang Tian used 15 again to slash at the insect king. At this time, the frozen insect king had begun to wake up. Yang Tian saw its legs tremble under the ice. 15's blue sword energy rushed into the ice layer again and entered the insect king's body. Just like before, the sword energy was like a stone thrown into the sea. The insect king still did not react. If it could really destroy the insect king's spirit, it would not be Yang Tian who would be excited, but 15 sword. After several slashes, Yang Tian gave up again. Most of the insects in the cave had hatched. The ice layer around the insect king had completely disappeared. Yang Tian and the others began to slowly retreat away from the insect king. Chapter 863. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. The gigantic king insect suddenly moved, causing the broken ice on its body and the burning larvae to scatter everywhere. The king insect did not wake up. It was like a stone. There was no energy fluctuation coming from its body, and there was no sign of life. But as soon as it woke up, it emitted a powerful aura that made it hard for Yang Tian to breathe. This was probably the most powerful creature that Yang Tian had ever encountered. Before the king insect could attack Yang Tian, Wu Lu moved first. He jumped up high and smashed the bone hammer in his hand at the king insect's head. The head was the weakness of almost any creature. Whoosh! There was an ear-piercing sound and a loud crash at the same time. Before the bone hammer in Wu Lu's hand could hit the king insect's head, the king insect swung its tail and sent Wu Lu flying. The king insect's reaction speed and the speed at which it swung its tail were too fast. Since Wu Lu had made his move, Yang Tian followed suit. When facing such a powerful creature, the first thing to do was to use the most powerful attack. Yang Tian used his mind, and 12 black holes appeared around the king insect. As soon as the 12 black holes appeared, they created a powerful force field. The space around the king insect was compressed and solidified. This created a powerful restraining force on the king insect. The powerful restraining force had trapped Wu Lu for a while. He was not sure if it could trap the king insect as well. It would only take a few minutes. At this time, the strange program had controlled countless small particles to fly under the king insect's belly to investigate the talisman array. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. For Yang Tian, time was passing too slowly. Wu Lu, who had been swept to the side, got up from the ground and looked at the king insect that was surrounded by the 12 black holes. He raised the bone hammer in his hand and swung it at the king insect's tail. At this time, there was a trace of blood at the corner of Wu Lu's mouth. It seemed that the king insect's attack had injured him, but he was not sure if it was serious. Whoosh! The kingworm seemed to have eyes on the back of its head. When it saw the dark deer attacking its tail, it raised its tail and swept it away. The speed of this sweep was even faster than before. Wu Lu was shocked. He immediately placed the bone hammer in front of his chest, but it was broken into two by the king insect's tail. Immediately after, Wu Lu received another heavy blow to his chest. During this process, Yang Tian was also under great pressure. When the king worm moved, it created a powerful force that pushed the 12 black holes back a few feet. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and sped up the rotation of the black hole chain. Creak, after sending Wu Lu flying again, the king beetle suddenly let out an ear-piercing shriek. Immediately, the worms in the cave moved and quickly crawled towards Yang Tian and the others. The ground was densely packed with insects, and above his head, insects fell like raindrops. The little blue dragon jumped up, opened its mouth, and sucked all the insects that fell from the ceiling into its mouth. Even though the insects were burning and releasing high-temperature flames that were poisonous, they were no match for the little blue dragon's flames. Thousands of insects were swallowed by the little blue dragon, and the little blue dragon was completely fine. Hui Chan was no longer a pushover. Even though she had gained great strength, she was still not familiar with how to use it. But dealing with the insects on the ground was a piece of cake for her. With a wave of her hand, a rapidly rotating tornado-like airflow appeared. The insects that were swarming from the ground were constantly swept into the airflow and then thrown out. They hit the walls of the cave and were smashed into pieces, exploding into balls of green liquid. Creak, seeing the countless insects being killed, the king beetle let out another shriek. It turned its head, opened its mouth, and spat out a green liquid toward Yang Tian. As soon as the green liquid came into contact with the air, it made a sizzling sound and dispersed in the air. Hui! Chan frowned and waved her hand again. Another whirlwind appeared in the air and swept away all the green liquid in the air and splashed it toward the king beetle. When the green liquid landed on the king beetle, there was no reaction. But as soon as it touched the ground, black smoke began to rise. The hard rock ground began to melt. Chan, don't destroy the talisman formation. Seeing this, Yang Tian was extremely nervous, because the green liquid almost landed on the talisman formation onto the king beetle's belly. At this time, the strange program had not finished reading the talisman formation. If the critical talisman was destroyed, Yang Tian would have nowhere to go. Hui Chan stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. It doesn't seem to want to move. At this time, Wu Lu, who had climbed up from the ground, frowned and said calmly. Yang Tian could see it as well. While it looked like Yang Tian had trapped the king beetle, the truth was that the king beetle was not willing to move. Just a few small movements were enough to put a lot of pressure on Yang Tian. Even so, Yang Tian did not dare to put away the 12 black holes, because this big guy was simply too fast. Bea, Chan, you two go out first, Yang Tian said to Bea and Hui Chan after giving it some thought. The two nodded and immediately ran out from the crack they came from. Pung! As soon as the two moved, there was a loud noise. The king beetle opened its tail and spat out a green ball with a diameter of 1 meter. This was actually a gigantic egg. After it was spat out, it crashed into the wall of the cave and shattered. As it exploded into a ball of green liquid, a gigantic insect crawled out from it. After the insect landed on the ground, it rolled a few times on the ground and then stood up. This was an insect that looked completely different from the king beetle. It looked more like a gigantic mosquito. Buzzing. Pung! Just as the insect was about to flap its wings and fly up, it was smashed into pieces by Wu Lu's fist. Pung! As soon as Wu Lu killed the insect, the king beetle's tail moved again and spat out another green egg. After the egg cracked, 2 more insects came out from it. They were smaller than the previous one. After Wu Lu killed one of them, the other one flew into the air and pounced at Wu Lu. Seeing such a situation, Yang Tian was extremely shocked. Clearly, the king beetle had finished modifying the eggs in a very short amount of time. If 2 of the eggs could not hold Wu Lu down, then the next time, there would be 3, 4, or even a large group of them. He could not allow this to continue. With a thought, Yang Tian put away the 12 black holes, raised his blue sword, and slashed at the king beetle. There was a muffled sound. Under Yang Tian's attack, the surface of the king beetle's body suddenly flashed with a green light. On the surface of its body, an energy field appeared and easily blocked Yang Tian's attack. Yang Tian's attack had alerted the king beetle. It slowly turned its body and faced Yang Tian. The origin power contained within Yang Tian's blade energy made it feel threatened. Chapter 864. Yang Tian had successfully attracted the king insect's attention. Yang Tian could not see any emotion in the king insect's eyes. Squeak! Suddenly, the king insect let out a cry. As soon as the sound was heard, Yang Tian felt as if his head had been hit by a sledgehammer. He felt dizzy and his ears were ringing. Clearly, this was a sonic attack. Yang Tian was not the only one who was affected. The little blue dragon, Bea, Huey, Chan, and the powerful Wooloo were all affected by the sonic attack as well. Bea fell to the ground and fainted. Huey and Chan covered their ears and knelt on the ground in pain. Wooloo frowned and clenched his teeth. As for the little blue dragon, he fell from the sky and smashed into the ground. When he got up, he kept shaking his head. Yang Tian could no longer control his spiritual energy as his mind was under attack. At this time, the king insect opened its mouth again and spat out a ball of green liquid at Yang Tian. Poof! A shadow flashed by. Wooloo appeared in time and pushed Yang Tian to the ground. The two rolled on the ground and dodged the king insect's attack. The king insect was a powerful insect. Just because it was an insect did not mean that it was not intelligent. This king insect had the same intelligence as Yang Tian and the others. As for the intelligent king insect, it could see Yang Tian's weakness and knew how to use its attack flexibly. The sonic attack made Yang Tian and the others temporarily lose consciousness. Luckily, Wooloo appeared in time. Otherwise, if the corrosive poison touched his body and he could not use his spiritual energy, he would be severely injured even if he did not die. The two of them rolled on the ground for a while before getting up from the ground. The little blue dragon quickly regained consciousness as well. Huey and Chan shook their heads and struggled to get up. Bea was the weakest. He had been lying on the ground, and it seemed like he would not wake up anytime soon. I saved your life. Now, I don't owe you anything. Wooloo looked at the king insect and said calmly. Yang Tian nodded. There must be a reason for this king insect to stay where it is, Wooloo said again. Yang Tian could see that the Zerd king was furious that Yang Tian and the others had killed a large number of larvae. With its strength and speed, it should be easy for it to defeat Yang Tian and the others. However, it remained where it was, not moving at all. This was too abnormal. Whoosh! Boom! Suddenly, a strong light shone in the cave, followed by the sound of thunder. It turned out that little azure dragon had struck the king bug with a powerful electric current, which hit the king bug. Countless electric sparks flickered on the surface of the king beetle's body for a moment before disappearing without a trace. Creak! After being bombarded by the little blue dragon's electric current, the king beetle screamed again. This was not a sonic attack. As soon as it screamed, a rustling sound could be heard again in the cave. At the same time, the walls, the ceiling, and the ground around them suddenly protruded, and holes as thick as an adult's arm appeared. Countless larvae crawled out from these small holes. This huge underground cave suddenly became like a beehive. It turned out that other than the ground, there were more insects hiding in the walls and under the ground. The electric current that the little blue dragon unleashed did not hurt the king beetle. Boom! The little blue dragon did not want to admit defeat. It opened its mouth and spat out another golden dragon flame toward the king beetle. Facing the little blue dragon's high-temperature flame, the king beetle did not dodge and remained motionless. The golden dragon flame once again enveloped the king beetle. After a moment, when the dragon flame dissipated, the king beetle's body was still the same as before. Even the spikes on its legs were not burned off. The little blue dragon, who was not convinced, stopped and lowered its body. It looked like it was going to crash into the king beetle. Xiaolong, stop! Yang Tian was shocked and immediately shouted to stop it. When he saw the little blue dragon looking at him, Yang Tian shook his head at it. Yang Tian knew that what Little Blue was doing was useless. Instead, it would put him in danger. After the countless larvae crawled out of the cave, they did not attack Yang Tian and the others. Instead, they gathered around the king beetle and surrounded it. Soon, the huge king beetle was surrounded by countless larvae. It can't move. Why is that? Bea finally woke up and was brought in front of Yang Tian by Hui Chan Chan. He looked at the mountain of insects and asked in confusion, "I want to know as well." Yang Tian mumbled to himself. The king beetle was very powerful. Even if it did not move, Yang Tian and the others would not be able to harm it. Wu Lu frowned and thought for a moment before saying, "This king beetle's strongest point is its defense. Its body can explode with powerful energy and block our attacks. If you can let that special energy of yours enter its body, it might be able to harm it." Yang Tian's attack on the king beetle had attracted its attention. The experienced Wu Lu had already figured out the reason. When they were chasing after Yang Tian, the little blue dragon and Yang Tian had attacked Wu Lu with origin force. Now, Wu Lu finally remembered. Yang Tian nodded after Wu Lu finished speaking. A little bit of origin force, even if it enters its body, won't be of much use. Unless you can let all of my and the little blue dragon's origin force enter its body and explode in an instant. Yang Tian clenched his fist after he finished speaking. However, it would not be easy to do so. Yang Tian's brain started working at high speed. In a battle with a powerful enemy, not only did one need great strength, but sometimes one also needed to have exquisite skills. This king beetle might be absorbing energy. Suddenly, the voice of a strange program sounded in Yang Tian's mind. At this time, the strange program had successfully read the information of the rune array under the king beetle's abdomen. What surprised Yang Tian was that there was a part of the rune array that had nothing to do with the rune array that recorded some information about the king insect. The strange program speculated that it was not a single person who had created the rune array here, but a group of people. The extra rune arrays in the rune array were very carelessly drawn and looked like they had been left behind in a hurry. These runes hinted that the king beetle had an energy that other races did not know about. This awakened king beetle was using this mysterious energy to attract the energy of other king beetles. During this process, the king beetle could not move in a large area. This meant that there was more than one king beetle in this strange planet-like world. There were other king beetles. In the eyes of this king beetle, killing Yang Tian and the others was not as important as absorbing the energy of its own kind. Chapter 865. Although the strange program had only deduced this information based on some runes, Yang Tian still chose to believe it. Because other than this, there was no other explanation for why the powerful insect king would not move even when it was extremely angry. Powerful strength. Yang Tian paused for a moment. Suddenly, he raised his hand, and a thin blue sheet appeared in his palm, emitting a beautiful blue light. The extreme omen talisman. That's right, the talisman in Yang Tian's hand was the extreme omen talisman he had obtained from the giant cauldron. Now, only the extreme omen talisman could help Yang Tian get rid of this insect king. The extreme omen talisman's specialty was that it could gather a huge amount of energy and unleash it in an instant. This was equivalent to a bomb. If Yang Tian could gather all the energy in his body and unleash it in an instant, defeating Wu Lu would be no problem at all. Yang Tian firmly believed in this. The reason he had only taken it out now was not because Yang Tian had only thought of it now, but because the extreme omen talisman was the ultimate life-saving measure for Yang Tian. He would never use it until the very end. Another reason was that every time he used the extreme omen talisman, the energy in his body would most likely be sucked dry. After one attack, he would no longer be able to resist. The extreme omen talisman was a double-edged sword. Yang Tian had no choice but to use the extreme omen talisman now, because if the strange program's analysis was correct, if he allowed the insect king to absorb enough energy, even if he used the extreme omen talisman, he would not be able to defeat the insect king. "What is this?" Wu Lu asked curiously when he saw the blue sheet in Yang Tian's hand, emitting powerful runes. "Extreme Omen Talisman," Yang Tian said indifferently. He felt that there was no need to hide it from Wu Lu. Hearing the words Extreme Omen Talisman, Wu Lu's eyes widened. Yang Tian saw Wu Lu's expression and knew that Wu Lu had definitely heard of the Extreme Omen Talisman. "I didn't think that you would have it. If you had taken it out earlier, I would not have been able to defeat you." Wu Lu's eyes were filled with envy when he said this. Yang Tian smiled. "Since you know about the Extreme Omen Talisman, you should know its use. The Extreme Omen Talisman doesn't store much energy, so I need your energy. By the way, I think I understand why the Insect King is unwilling to leave the range of the talisman formation." Yang Tian quickly explained his speculations about the strange program to the other party. "What should I do?" Wu Lu asked straightforwardly after Yang Tian finished speaking. Yang Tian said, "Pour your power into the Extreme Mega Talisman. The more, the better. I hope you don't hold back, because we won't hold back either. Extreme Omen to Extreme Omen, extreme to extreme to Extreme Omen, Wu's to his omen." Secondly, he was afraid that he would be killed by Wu Lu before he could recover after using up all of his strength. After all, Wu Lu had just returned Yang Tian's life and fulfilled his promise. Wu Lu naturally understood Yang Tian's thoughts and also understood Yang Tian's actions. Hence, he nodded. "There's not much time left. Everyone, inject all your energy into the Extreme Omen Talisman." After Yang Tian finished speaking, he raised his hand, and the Extreme Omen Talisman flew into the air and rapidly expanded. Wu Lu leaped and transformed back into his original form. The horn on his forehead emitted a powerful energy and sent it into the Extreme Omen Talisman. Following this, Yang Tian, the little blue dragon, Hui Yi, and Chan Chan did not hold back. They sent all their energy into the Extreme Omen Talisman. Bea was not strong, so he took the initiative to become a guard and pay close attention to the Insect King's changes. The process of sending energy did not attract the Insect King's attention. The analysis of the Extreme Omen was mostly correct. In reality, there were not that many Insect Kings in the world they were trapped in. Right now, it was absorbing the energy of a sleeping insect that was stronger than it. If it could absorb all of the insect's energy, the insect's power, in addition to the energy it absorbed, would be able to increase its realm once again. The problem was that it could not be disturbed during this process. Otherwise, the connection it had worked so hard to establish would be broken. This Insect King was very confident. The attacks from Yang Tian and the others were like scratches to it. 10 minutes later, Wu Lu had already sent 95% of his energy into the Extreme Omen Talisman. He fell from the sky and crashed to the ground. The weakened Wu Lu could only lie down. He did not even have the energy to stand up. He had already used all the energy he could. If his energy was depleted any further, the beast core in his body would shatter and he would die. Bea held his heavy scimitar and glanced at the weakened Wu Lu. He knew that if he attacked Wu Lu now, he would most likely be able to kill him. As soon as this thought appeared in his mind, Bea threw it out of his mind. He felt that he was not that despicable. Soon, Hui Chan also completed the process of sending energy. When she fell to the ground, she immediately took out a beast core and put it in her mouth. Then, the little green turtle swallowed it. Soon, the little blue dragon was also done. It was in the same situation as Wu Lu. In terms of energy, Wu Lu was actually inferior to Yang Tian. It was just that Yang Tian was unable to use so much energy in battle. Of course, this was also because his level was not high enough. When Yang Tian felt that the energy world was unstable and the black hole chains were about to dissipate, he stopped. At this time, Yang Tian was also very weak. However, he had to complete the last step. Using his strong willpower and the little energy in his body, Yang Tian did his best to not collapse. Looking at the pile of insects, Yang Tian smiled. Shortly after, he used his mind. The Extreme Omen Talisman floating in the air suddenly turned into a ray of blue light and shot towards the insect pile. As the extreme omen talisman flew, it did not make a sound. In an instant, it disappeared into the insect pile. In the blink of an eye, the blue light flew out from the insect pile and returned to Yang Tian's hand. At this time, Yang Tian finally fell to the ground. The little blue dragon, Wu Lu, and Bea all stared at the insect pile that looked like a small mountain with their eyes wide open. Did he succeed? This question was not only in their minds. Yang Tian also had the same question. This was his first time using the extreme omen talisman. Yang Tian, who was connected to the extreme omen talisman, only knew that the extreme omen talisman pierced through the king insect's head and flew back. As for whether or not it killed the king insect, he could not be sure. Whoosh! All of a sudden, the insect pile scattered like a pile of sand, revealing the king insect within. Then, with a cracking sound, the king worm's head cracked open. Following that, its smooth shell cracked as well, emitting a series of cracking sounds. Seeing this, Yang Tian knew that he had succeeded. He exclaimed in his heart. The extreme omen talisman was too powerful. However, the amount of energy it had consumed was also shocking. Chapter 866. The dead insect king had lost half of its head. After its shell cracked open, a large amount of green liquid flowed out from its body, making a sizzling sound. This liquid was like sulfuric acid. It was extremely corrosive, and the ground was filled with holes. The air was filled with an unpleasant stench. When Yang Tian saw the insect king's body crumble, he raised his hand and looked at the extreme omen talisman in his hand. He didn't expect that the extreme omen talisman's power would retain the force attribute. After the green liquid had flowed out from the insect king's body, a black crystal the size of a soccer ball could be seen on its chest. When he saw this beast core, Yang Tian's eyes widened. He guessed that this was the insect king's energy crystal. Did the insect king have a beast core? That didn't seem to be the case. This beast core wasn't emitting any energy waves. Just as Yang Tian was about to get up and check it out, Wu Lu suddenly got up and rushed toward the insect king's body. It swallowed the black crystal in one gulp. Wu Lu was too fast. There was no time to stop it. Yang Tian sighed helplessly in his heart. In fact, he really wanted this beast core. The King Zerg was too powerful. If this was the energy crystal of the King Zerg, Yang Tian's power would increase by another level after digesting its energy. After swallowing the black crystal, Wu Lu walked to the side with heavy steps and knelt down. Under the furious gazes of the little blue dragon and Bea, Wu Lu spoke in his beast form. His voice was muffled, as if it came from his stomach. Yang Tian, this is what I deserve. Once I have digested the energy in this beast core and have rested for a while, I'll be able to break through space and return to the galaxy. When that time comes, I will let you return to my race alive and accept your punishment. Before Wu Lu could finish speaking, Northcliffe suddenly shouted and charged toward Wu Lu. Seeing Bea slashing at him with his heavy machete, Wu Lu's eyes were filled with disdain. Pung! Before Bea's machete could land on Wu Lu, it was swept away by Wu Lu's tail. Cough, cough. After flying for more than 10 meters in the air, Northcliffe rolled a few times on the ground before coming to a stop. After struggling to get up from the ground, he fell to the ground again. He coughed a few times, blood flowing from his mouth and nose. It seemed that his injuries were not light. Phew! Seeing that Bea's life was not in danger, even though he was heavily injured, Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He turned around and stared blankly at the ceiling of the cave. Yang Tian didn't blame Wu Lu. If he was Wu Lu, he would have done the same. This time, Wu Lu's luck was better than his, and he was the first to recover his strength. Coo coo coo. A few minutes later, a series of goo-goo-goo sounds suddenly came from Wu Lu's direction. This was a sound that only the lonely deer beast could make. It sounded like it was in great pain. When the voice rang out, Yang Tian also sensed an intense energy fluctuation. Yang Tian turned his head and saw that Wu Lu's eyes had turned blood red. His face was twisted in pain. What happened? Yang Tian, who had recovered some of his strength, jumped up and asked with a frown, "The king worm is not dead." Wu Lu's voice came from within Wu Lu's stomach. As soon as it was done, its body began to change. It was as if its body was moldy, and countless green, furry things began to grow out of it. At this time, the energy fluctuation coming from Wu Lu's body became even more chaotic. Roar! Wu Lu, who was in pain, suddenly opened his mouth and let out a roar. After the roar, its head drooped down. The life force in its body became weaker and weaker until it finally disappeared. Dead. Yang Tian's eyes widened in shock. They had just been fighting together. Yang Tian planned to let Wu Lu go after leaving this place. He didn't expect something like this to happen. Even though Wu Lu had swallowed the thing that looked like an energy crystal from the king worm's body, Yang Tian didn't hate Wu Lu. For Yang Tian, Wu Lu's death happened too quickly. Ha ha! Bea, who was heavily injured, suddenly laughed out loud when he saw Wu Lu die. The reason why Bea attacked Wu Lu earlier was not for Yang Tian, but for himself. If he could kill Wu Lu, he would be able to obtain Wu Lu's beast core and the black beast core that had not been completely digested. Then, before Yang Tian and the little blue dragon could recover their strength, he would leave immediately and use the cultivation method passed down in his family to absorb the energy of the two beast cores. Then, he would become a powerful person in the galaxy. Bea had been wandering outside for a long time. The reason why his realm was not high was not because he didn't train hard enough, nor was it because he was stupid. It was because he didn't have enough energy to cultivate. After Wu Lu died, its body stopped changing. Yang Tian walked over slowly and checked to make sure that Wu Lu was dead. He then cut open Wu Lu's chest and took out a black crystal the size of a thumb. In less than 10 minutes, the black crystal had shrunk. If it weren't for the energy it was emitting, Yang Tian would have thought that it was Wu Lu's beast core. The shrunken black crystal looked different from before. Yang Tian used the tip of the blue sword to pick it up and slowly moved it closer to him. At this time, Red Sword 15 appeared on Yang Tian's left hand. Buzzing, buzzing, buzzing. As soon as 15 appeared, it began to tremble and let out a buzzing sound. 15's strange behavior made Yang Tian understand that while the king worm was dead, its spirit was still here. Whoosh! Yang Tian shook the blue sword, and the black crystal was flicked away from the tip of the sword and flew toward the stone wall. For Yang Tian, the black crystal was no longer useful. He would rather destroy it. As soon as the king worm's spirit came out, he would kill it with 15. But to his surprise, the black crystal suddenly turned into a black blur and rushed into Yang Tian's forehead. The black blur was so fast that Yang Tian did not have time to react. When the black blur entered Yang Tian's forehead, a huge worm appeared in Yang Tian's mind. It was the king worm's spirit. Squeak, squeak, squeak. As soon as the king worm's spirit appeared, it began to squeak. The powerful sound wave slammed into Yang Tian's mind, shaking his soul. It was very uncomfortable. Now, Yang Tian finally understood the pain that Wu Lu was in. It was not the pain of the physical body, but the pain of the spirit being torn apart. The pain could not be described with words. Not only did the sound attack Yang Tian's soul, but it also affected the cells in Yang Tian's body. Just like Wu Lu, Yang Tian's body began to grow green fur. Boom! At this critical moment, a powerful energy burst out from 15's sword and entered Yang Tian's mind through Yang Tian's body and slammed into the king worm's spirit. The king worm's spirit was shattered into countless pieces after being hit by the energy. 15's energy took away some of the pieces, while the rest were quickly melted and absorbed by Yang Tian's mind. 15 had done again. Even the powerful king worm's spirit was no match for it. 15 had taken away the pure energy of the king worm's spirit after it was shattered. The rest of it was the king worm's memory, including the inherited memories of the insectoids. Chapter 867. After 15 killed the king beetle spirit body, it could no longer affect Yang Tian's body. The green fur on Yang Tian's body fell off, and he returned to his original appearance. Just now, he looked very much like a green-furred monkey. The structure of the beasts and humans was not very different. They might even have originated from the same ancestor. Therefore, the cells of the two races could easily fuse together and produce new cell bodies. That was why Yang Tian could fuse with the bloodlines of the little blue dragon and the giant god. The universe also produced the offspring of humans and beasts. The structure of the insect's body was far inferior to that of humans and beasts. After the king beetle's spirit body swallowed Wu Lu's spirit body, it wanted to change Wu Lu's body and rebuild the insect's body that it was familiar with. Of course, it failed. That was because the king beetle did not understand the structure of the beast's cells. The king beetle could not do that, but Yang Tian could. Yang Tian's mind was very resilient. After 15 shattered the king beetle's spirit body, he obtained all the information in the king beetle's mind in the blink of an eye. The first thing that Yang Tian digested was the king beetle's life experience. Ever since it was born, the king beetle had been eating nonstop. It grew continuously in the process. During this long process of growth, it had never experienced a proper battle. That was because the king beetle was a mother beetle. When it encountered other insects, it would naturally give birth to countless insects to protect it. In the end, when the king beetle grew into the leader of its tribe, a group of experts suddenly descended on the island where it lived. These people were very powerful and were all experts in the Tao talismans. As soon as they appeared, they used talisman formations to trap the king beetle. The king beetle could not react at all. After being trapped, the king beetle's consciousness gradually faded after being frozen. It then fell into a deep sleep until Yang Tian and the others arrived. After the king Zerg awoke, it suddenly sensed that there was another Zerg that was stronger than it. What made it excited was that after establishing a connection with the other Zerg's special ability, it realized that the other Zerg had almost no self-awareness. Thus, it began to greedily absorb the power of the other Zerg. Because of greed, the body of the king bug was destroyed by Yang Tian. Even its spirit was injured. After the death of the king beetle, the crystals that remained in its body were naturally made of energy, similar to beast cores. However, the spirit of the king worm was inside the energy crystal. After Wu Lu swallowed the crystal, the king insect's spirit body smoothly entered Wu Lu's mind. Although the intelligence of the bug race was much slower than that of the beast race, the long period of slumber had made the bug race's spiritual body extremely powerful. The dark deer's spiritual body was easily devoured by the bug king. After that, Yang Tian cut open Wu Lu's body and took out the black crystal. Yang Tian was extremely careful, so the king Zerg could only take the initiative to attack Yang Tian. To the king Zerg, 15's attack came too quickly. It had no time to react. If 15's attack couldn't destroy it, it would destroy the inherited memories of the bug race immediately. No race would allow their inherited memories to be obtained by an outsider. Yang Tian's opponent, Wu Lu, was dead. The king Zerg was also killed. Yang Tian and the others were finally in a safe environment. Xiaolong, help me look after this. I've obtained the inherited memories of the bug race. Yang Tian spoke to the little blue dragon in Mandarin. Then he sat down and closed his eyes. The little blue dragon had recovered some energy. After Yang Tian spoke, it turned its head and looked at Bea coldly. Seeing the little blue dragon's gaze, Bea smiled bitterly and sat on the ground. He knew that Yang Tian and the others would never trust him again. This was the price he had to pay for his greed. The king Zerg was greedy and was killed by Yang Tian. Wu Lu was greedy and died at the hands of the king Zerg. Any intelligent life form would have a greedy heart. It was unavoidable. However, being used by greed at an inappropriate time and overestimating oneself would only harm oneself. Humans also had inherited memories, but it was extremely difficult to awaken them. This was because humans were too smart compared to other races. The amount of information in their inherited memories was too large. In addition, humans had advanced recording tools that could replace the inherited memories. Slowly, this ability deteriorated. The beasts were much better than humans. As long as they were strong enough, they could slowly awaken their inherited memories. However, compared to the bug race, the beasts were far inferior. Yang Tian obtained the inherited memories of the bug race. He was so shocked that he couldn't describe it with words. It was as if he had walked into a huge treasure house, and he was just a speck of dust in it. With such a large amount of information, Yang Tian couldn't absorb it in a short period of time. At this time, he could only absorb the information that was currently useful to him. First, it was information about the bug race's body structure. Under the shocked gazes of the little blue dragon, Bea, and little green tortoise, Yang Tian's right hand began to change. First, the skin below the crook of his arm began to emit a green light. Green spikes began to grow out of his skin, and his skin became dry and hard. Finally, it turned into a hard green shell. This was only Yang Tian's first attempt. The effect was very good. If he could completely absorb the information from the bug race's cells and combine it with his own, he could instantly turn into an bug. If he encountered the bug race in the future and mixed into their group, the other bugs would definitely think that he was one of them. Of course, to infiltrate the insectoids, changing one's appearance was not enough. One must also make the cells in one's body secrete information unique to the insectoids and learn the insectoids' method of transmitting information. Yang Tian also learned a shocking secret from the inheritance. That was the bug race that had disappeared from the universe for a long time were mostly in hibernation. They were waiting for an opportunity. As soon as they were activated, they would sweep through the universe again. This might be shocking news to the living beings in the sea of stars, but it did not cause any ripples in Yang Tian's heart. That was because the beasts dominated the universe. The beasts, the bug race, and other races were all alien races in Yang Tian's heart. In his mind, Yang Tian roughly went through the inherited information of the bug race. One of the pieces of information made Yang Tian excited. He finally understood why the king beetle was motionless. This greedy guy was actually absorbing the energy of another bug. This bug was much stronger than the king bug, and it was in a state of deep sleep. Due to Yang Tian and the rest interruption, the bug king only absorbed a small portion of the bug king's energy. Chapter 868. The Zergs could transmit energy from such a long distance away. Yang Tian was shocked. Now, Yang Tian knew why the Zergs were so scary in the eyes of the beasts. This was because once the insectoids were faced with the threat of extinction, a portion of the high-level insectoids would be sacrificed to gather their energy to create an even more powerful insectoid. Layer by layer, it would be like a pyramid, and in the end, it would create an incomparably powerful insectoid. Moreover, the speed of strengthening was very fast. Human and beast cultivators couldn't compare to it. Other than the speed of producing immortals, the Zergs also had a very powerful evolution mechanism. They would constantly make up for their flaws in battle. Why did those mysterious people in black robes place this king worm and another worm that was even more powerful here and freeze them? Yang Tian couldn't figure out yet. To him, the most important thing now was to absorb the energy of the other Zerg. To do that, Yang Tian still needed to make some preparations. Because he didn't have any Zerg organs to form a connection with the other Zerg and absorb energy. After the Zerg King and Wu Lu were killed, Little Green Turtle released Huey Chan Chan. Huey Chan Chan had already recovered her strength. Seeing Yang Tian sitting cross-legged as if he was adjusting the energy in his body, she didn't disturb Yang Tian. She glanced at the situation in the cave and sat cross-legged. She sat down and adjusted the energy in her body. The blue crystal that Little Green Turtle swallowed hadn't been completely digested by Little Green Turtle and Huey Chan Chan. Just now, Little Green Turtle had melted the beast core from the pile of bones. Huey Chan Chan had absorbed a large amount of energy and needed to adjust now. After a while, waves of powerful energy waves came from Huey Chan Chan's body. Looking at Huey Chan Chan with her eyes closed, Bea was very envious. Some people were born as cultivation geniuses. They cultivated for the same amount of time as others, but they improved faster. Some people might have ordinary cultivation talent, but they had heaven-defying luck and obtained treasures that could help them cultivate. Obviously, Huey Chan was more likely to be the latter. However, Yuan Shi was something that couldn't be obtained by envy. Bei aside and took out the beast core that Yang Tian had given him. Using his family's unique cultivation method, he began to absorb the energy within the beast core. The cave quickly became silent. Only the dragon flames that the little blue dragon spat out to illuminate the cave were making sizzling sounds. In this quiet environment, time passed very quickly. Yang Tian had tried to use the Zerg's cellular information to change his arm, but it wasn't easy to create an organ that could connect and absorb another Zerg's energy. This special organ was gradually produced and perfected by the insectoids during their long evolutionary process. It was like an exquisite electronic instrument. Yang Tian already had experience in this aspect of cultivation. It took Yang Tian dozens of hours to sort out the information on the King Zerg's body, and this was done with the help of the Strange program. During this process, Yang Tian made use of the Strange program's powerful calculation and memory ability. Back then, when he created the Force, Yang Tian did it in a microscopic state. To create the Zerg's organ, it could only be done in a microscopic state. To prevent accidents, Yang Tian thought about it and decided to create the Zerg's organ outside his body. He slowly raised his right hand and focused all his attention on a cell in his right palm. Everything in the world was made up of energy. In Yang Tian's vision, this inconspicuous cell grew bigger and soon occupied all of Yang Tian's vision. His consciousness quickly entered the cell's nucleus. At this moment, Yang Tian didn't stop enlarging the cell's nucleus. Enveloped by his mental power, his consciousness continued to penetrate deeper. Soon, the cell's nucleus turned into countless sparkling and messy threads. These threads were the energy threads that formed the cell's nucleus. Having cultivated to his current level, Yang Tian cells had long undergone changes and were no longer the same as an ordinary person's. The color of the energy threads was different. In this microscopic state, Yang Tian felt wonderful and magical. What was even more magical was that these countless energy threads were constantly vibrating and producing rhythmic waves. Every time there was a fluctuation, it would release all kinds of energy. Countless energy lines seemed to be playing the music of life. Feeling the energy waves of different frequencies, Yang Tian was very happy because he knew that his method was completely correct. From the inherited memories of the Zerg, Yang Tian also obtained many energy waves of special frequencies. After observing for a while and grasping the rhythm of these energy threads, Yang Tian's mental power split into thousands of threads and began to fluctuate according to Yang Tian's method. The Strange program also joined in this process because Yang Tian's current brain power couldn't do it all. There were simply too many energy threads that needed to be controlled. During this process, not only did the Strange program help Yang Tian, but it also benefited greatly. This would allow it to understand the structure of the body better and lay the foundation for creating a perfect body in the future. Under the influence of Yang Tian's mental power threads, the countless energy threads that formed the nucleus gradually changed their frequency and finally became uniform. At this time, the nucleus had already changed. Yang Tian had completed the most crucial step. Yang Tian withdrew his vision from a nucleus and used his mind to transfer a large amount of energy to support the growth of this cell. At this time, Yang Tian could see that the palm of his right hand slowly protruded and finally formed a red ball of flesh that grew bigger and bigger. It didn't stop until it was as big as a soccer ball. At this time, dense, fleshy feelers extended from the top of the ball of flesh. He finally succeeded. Yang Tian opened his eyes with a face full of excitement. When this organ grew, he established a connection with another Zerg. With a thought, a powerful force was transmitted to him. At this time, Yang Tian finally understood the function of this organ. In fact, it was like a teleportation rune array that transmitted energy. No wonder the Zerking had been staying in the same place. If a rune array randomly changed its position during the teleportation process, the process could easily be interrupted. The Zerg's energy was extremely special. After it was received by this red ball of flesh with fleshy feelers, Yang Tian wanted to send it into the energy world, but he couldn't do it no matter what. Yang Tian gritted his teeth and had to open up another energy world in his body according to the inherited memories of the Zerg. Yang Tian called it the Zerg Origin World. Chapter 869. When the Insect Origin World was opened, it was just a small dot in Yang Tian's body at first. As he absorbed more and more energy, the dot kept growing bigger and bigger. After an unknown amount of time, it finally became a big world that was comparable to the original realm. As the Insect Origin World grew bigger, Yang Tian's speed of absorbing energy also became faster and faster. As for the other insect, he did not know how powerful it was. Yang Tian used its energy to construct the Insect Origin World, but he still felt that its power was endless. Yang Tian suppressed his excitement and kept absorbing the insect's energy. He wanted to absorb all of the insect's energy. For the insect race, such an opportunity was very rare. When the two insects were sealed, they naturally felt a strong sense of danger. The insect race's unique emergency measures were activated the moment they fell into a deep sleep. This way, when one of the insects woke up, it would be able to absorb the other's energy and become stronger to deal with the crisis the insect race encountered. Yang Tian rejoiced. The first two insects they encountered were low to medium insects. If they had encountered the more powerful insect, they would have been killed by it. The Insect Origin World was constantly absorbing energy, and so was Yang Tian's body. After absorbing the insect race's energy, Yang Tian's cells were slowly changing. This was something Yang Tian could not stop unless he did not want the insect race's energy. His body cells were constructed from the energy of human and divine beast bloodlines. Now that he had the insect race's energy, he did not know what kind of changes would occur. No matter what, for Yang Tian, it was fine as long as his life was not in danger. He did not care about these changes. Cultivation was actually a process of evolution. At his current level, the cells that made up his body were completely different from ordinary humans. Yang Tian did not feel the passage of time at all. The little blue dragon had turned back into a mini dragon and was gnawing on the leaves of the world tree. Hui Chanchan had adjusted the energy in her body. After a huge consumption, the energy in her body had not weakened but had become more vigorous. Bea had finished absorbing the energy of an entire beast core. He ran to the side and waved his heavy machete to practice his combat skills. Little green tortoise stuck its head out of boredom and retreated back into its shell after a while. According to the Ketla star's time, more than 3 months had passed. Yang Tian was sitting cross-legged with his right hand raised. There was a red ball of flesh in his hand. The fleshy feelers on the ball were constantly swaying, looking very demonic. As for Yang Tian himself, it was as if he had turned into a stone statue. For more than 3 months, his raised right hand did not even tremble. Within the insect origin realm, a huge red ball of energy had already materialized. It was exuding a red glow, and it looked like a star that was about to burn out. Over the past 3 months, Yang Tian's body had undergone some changes. Man, beast, and insect. The energy of the 3 races had created a powerful physical body. Before the transformation, Yang Tian's body was emitting powerful energy waves. But now it was almost impossible to feel the energy moving in his body. Bea, who had been wandering in the sea of stars for a long time, knew that Yang Tian had reached a kind of reserved state. He was more than a realm stronger than before. At this time, Wu Lu, who was at his peak, was no longer a match for Yang Tian. Above the cave, the little blue dragon's golden fireball was extinguished again. Just as the little blue dragon was about to spit out another fireball, a red insect pattern suddenly appeared between Yang Tian's eyebrows. This worm pattern was like a centipede with a curved body. Seeing this, Bea's eyes widened. He then rubbed his eyes. In the darkness, the red insect pattern between Yang Tian's eyebrows was too conspicuous. After confirming that he was not mistaken, Bea's face was filled with shock. He could not help but mumble, "Insect race godhood, godhood." Bea's words stunned Huey Chan and the little blue dragon. When Yang Tian opened his eyes, the insect pattern between his eyebrows also disappeared. At this time, Yang Tian had already absorbed the energy of the other insect. Not godhood, but demigod. After opening his eyes, Yang Tian smiled faintly. Now Yang Tian finally understood what divinity and demigod lattice were. Demigod. When one's power reached a certain level, the cells in one's body would change and produce a special kind of energy. This kind of energy would gather near the central nervous system and create a special mark. This mark came from inheritance. It was created by the ancestors of a race who had reached the godhood realm. If Yang Tian had a real godhood, he could set a mark in his bloodline and pass it down to his descendants. As long as one of them cultivated to the godhood realm, the mark created by Yang Tian would appear. The demigod persona would only appear when a user used a great deal of power. After reaching the demigod realm, one would have a real godhood. Other than a strong physical body, when one's spirit body or soul reached a certain level, the mark would continue to appear. That was the real godhood realm. It sounded mysterious, but in reality, it was a mark that appeared when one's power reached a high level. And this mark was created by the powerful ancestors. If Yang Tian was willing, when he reached the godhood realm, he could make the mark of his descendants' godhood the mark of the demon maiden. Big brother Yang, congratulations. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Huey Chan congratulated Yang Tian happily. Yang Tian smiled and nodded. After reaching the demigod realm, Yang Tian was, of course, happy. However, he realized that he seemed to be further away from the omnipotent realm. The more he knew, the more he would discover that he did not understand. Yang Tian used to think that a powerhouse with a godhood realm was the omnipotent realm. However, he knew from the inherited memories of the bug race that even a powerhouse with a godhood realm had been easily killed by a group of mysterious people. Wooloo's body had not decomposed. Its body had been modified by the king bug's spirit body and had mutated. Its cells contained bug race toxins. Yang Tian did not ask the little blue dragon, Huey Chan, and the others to help. He dug a huge hole in the cave with his blue blade alone and buried Wooloo's body inside. He even erected a huge monument. If not for Wooloo, Yang Tian would not have had such an opportunity. After burying Wooloo, Yang Tian and the others left the cave. Although the strange program had already designed a rune array to leave, Yang Tian did not plan to leave immediately. This was because there was still a huge treasure in this world that had yet to be taken. That was the rune treasure in the sky that was emitting light and heat. Yang Tian returned to the peak. He looked up at the huge sphere and said to the little blue dragon, "Xiaolong, that's yours." The little blue dragon roared excitedly and turned into a huge dragon, flying towards the sun in the sky. Yang Tian, on the other hand, took out a large pile of yellow bricks and began to inscribe runes on them. Chapter 870. Roar. In the sky, the little blue dragon let out a roar that shook the heavens. Then, the glowing orb in the sky suddenly changed shape and shone brightly. Yang Tian raised his head and saw a thick flame coming out of the oval-shaped orb and entering the little blue dragon's mouth. It was clear that the little blue dragon was absorbing the orb's energy. The little blue dragon was very smart. At this moment, the orb's energy was too hot, and it could not swallow it all at once. So, it would first absorb a portion of its energy. Only a divine beast like a dragon could digest that kind of high-temperature energy. Yang Tian only raised his head to take a glance before lowering his head again and increasing the speed at which he was carving runes. Hui, Chan, and Bea had been looking up at the sky. The sight of the little blue dragon swallowing the orb was very shocking to them. 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, more and more yellow bricks piled up next to Yang Tian. As time passed, the orb in the sky became dimmer and dimmer. After several hours, Yang Tian finally stopped. At this moment, the yellow bricks with runes carved on them were piled up like a small mountain next to him. In the sky, the orb had turned red, just like the sun that was about to set in the evening. Not only did it turn red, but its size also seemed to have shrunk by half. Because the light had weakened, the entire world became dim. Roar! At this moment, the little blue dragon turned around and let out a roar. Then it once again enlarged its body. Yang Tian received the little blue dragon's reminder and began to lay down the bricks with runes carved on them on the ground. Thousands of yellow bricks were laid down to form a circular array. After Yang Tian finished laying down the array and successfully inspected it, he gave the little blue dragon an OK sign. The orb that had turned red in the sky was swallowed by the little blue dragon in one gulp. Without the light source, the entire world suddenly became pitch black. A moment later, the little blue dragon returned to the top of the mountain and spat out dragon flames. Only then did the top of the mountain regain its light. Yang Tian took out 3 beast cores and embedded them in the array. This was a teleportation glyph array. When the glyph array was activated, it emitted a blue light under the dim light, appearing especially bright. Let's go! After the little blue dragon shrunk and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder, Yang Tian glanced at the surroundings and said indifferently before walking into the glyph array. Hui! Chan Chan and Bea immediately followed. When the blue light disappeared, what appeared in front of Yang Tian and the others was a dense forest. All the trees were green. The sky was blue with floating white clouds. The air was also very fresh, indicating that the oxygen content was very high. The ambient temperature was about 20 degrees Celsius, which made people feel very comfortable. What a great place! Bea took a deep breath and sighed. Yang Tian felt very familiar with this environment. It was as if he had returned to the planet's environment. He was sure that this was definitely not Earth because the gravity was too different. The gravity here was at least twice as strong as Earth's. Whether it was a planet or an island in the galaxy, gravity was the foundation of the living environment. Otherwise, it would not be able to lock in the air and water. No matter how much material there was, it would all leak out. Yang Tian took a look at his surroundings before shifting his gaze to his feet. Under his feet was a circular array that was about 1 meter tall and 10 meters in diameter. God knew how long this teleportation array had been built. The runes on it were already blurred. Luckily, it still had its teleportation function. Otherwise, Yang Tian and the others would have to stay in that small spherical world for a long time and find another way to leave. After hearing Bea's exclamation, Yang Tian smiled and said, "It's all fake." Fake? Bea widened his eyes in shock. Yang Tian nodded. It's all an illusion made by a glyph array. With that, Yang Tian walked down the teleportation array. Without the strange program's reminder, Yang Tian could feel it himself. Ever since they arrived here, the teleportation array had been extinguished and they were surrounded by a glyph array. After the strange program's calculation of the rune's energy, it came to a conclusion that this was an illusion array. After Yang Tian walked down the teleportation array, he walked around it and said to Bea, Hui, and Chan Chan, "Follow closely behind me and don't wander off. If you notice that I'm missing, stay where you are and don't move. Also, don't touch these trees." With that, Yang Tian walked towards the forest in front of him. The ground in the forest was flat, and all the trees were the same size and height. The distance between them was also about the same. It was easy to get lost in such a forest. While walking through the forest, Yang Tian raised his hand and touched the tree trunks. The feeling was the same as real trees. Yang Tian couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This illusion array was too meticulous. Yang Tian didn't walk in a straight line. He turned left and right at times. After more than an hour, when Yang Tian stopped, Bea couldn't help but ask, "Why don't you go up and take a look?" Yang Tian bent down, picked up a leaf from the ground, and threw it into the sky. Under the control of Yang Tian's mental power, the leaf slowly flew up. When it flew over the top of the tree, the space around the leaf suddenly fluctuated and the withered leaf quickly disappeared. Along with the leaf, the mental power that Yang Tian attached to the leaf disappeared as well. Seeing the leaf disappear, Bea widened his eyes in shock. Although the process of the leaf disappearing was very short, he could clearly see that the leaf did not disappear in an instant. The process of disappearing started from one side of the leaf, as if it was being eaten by insects. In other words, it was very likely that the upper part of the leaf was being annihilated. Bea was afraid because he wanted to jump into the sky to take a look. If that was the case, he would be done for. What made Bea afraid wasn't just the space annihilation, but that Yang Tian knew about it and didn't tell him. When he thought of this, Northcliffe was filled with regret. He silently scolded himself for being blinded by greed and not informing Yang Tian several times before acting on his own. Seeing Bea's sad expression, Yang Tian reached out and patted Bea's shoulder. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm here. You'll be fine." Bea nodded heavily and said, "I was wrong." Hui Chan had matured a lot. Seeing Bea's regretful expression, she knew that Bea wasn't apologizing for the problem just now. It was because of what happened in the Wormhole King. After admitting his mistake, Bea felt much more relaxed. Next, they walked through the forest for about half an hour. Their vision widened, and a vast field appeared in front of Yang Tian and the rest. In this vast field, there were 12 formation platforms. In the middle stood a giant monument that was more than 30 meters tall and more than 10 meters wide. There were runes carved on the monument. Yang Tian walked to the monument and looked at the runes carefully. He smiled and said, "So this is the central region, the center of the teleportation formation that Yuan Shu built." Chapter 871. Yuan Shu had once traversed more than half of the Star Sea, observing the various islands and creating a Star Sea map. During this process, many hubs were built for the convenience of travel. Each central region had dozens or even hundreds of talisman arrays. As long as one found the central region, it would be convenient to go to other islands. To put it bluntly, the central region was like a transit station. Unlike other teleportation arrays, the 12 talisman arrays in front of Yang Tian had the names of the islands that could be reached. "What is this place?" Seeing that Yang Tian had finished reading the talisman inscriptions on the tablet and was walking towards the nearest talisman array, Hui Chan asked curiously. Yang Tian said, "This is a teleportation transit station built by Yuan Shu. From here, one can reach many places." Hearing Yang Tian's words, Bea's eyes lit up and he asked, "Is there a talisman array that leads to the Source Island?" Yang Tian shook his head. "I don't know yet. I have to take a look at these talisman arrays first." Walking to the nearest teleportation array, Yang Tian paused for a moment and then walked around the array. After looking at it, he walked to the next talisman array. After about 3 hours, Yang Tian finished looking at all 12 talisman arrays. Sure enough, as recorded on the tablet, the talisman arrays here had the names of the islands that would be teleported to and the things to take note of. For example, which tribe occupied the island, whether it was a habitable island, the environment of the island, etc. Gully Island, Chong Island, Black Sand Island, Sky Border Island, Golden Thread Island, Ancient Hammer Island, Ingu Island, Frost Island, Fire Mist Island, Monzu Island, Gidge Island. These were the names of the 12 islands. Hearing Yang Tian's names, Bea was very disappointed because there was no Source Island. At this moment, Bea was very eager to return to Source Island. He planned to never leave after returning to Source Island and stay on the island for the rest of his life. After wandering outside for such a long time, most of his experiences must have been painful. His heart was tired. Speaking of which, the time spent with Yang Tian was exciting and also the safest. It would be great if it could continue like this. However, Bea understood that he would only be a burden to Yang Tian if he stayed by Yang Tian's side, especially when he was in danger. Not only could he not help, but he also needed Yang Tian to protect him. Yuan Shu was a legend in the Star Ocean. That era had passed a long time ago, and the North Cliff had never heard of any of the 12 islands. Yang Tian asked Bea, but Bea could only shake his head. Since the Northern Cliff didn't know about those islands, Yang Tian could only choose on his own. A long time had passed, and the situation of the various islands had changed. Perhaps the once habitable islands no longer existed or had become dead regions. Yang Tian didn't know much about these 12 islands, so he could only choose according to the introduction on the array. To Frost Island, Yang Tian concluded. Huey Chan and Bea didn't have any objections to Yang Tian's choice. As long as Yang Tian was there, they didn't have to worry. To Yang Tian, it didn't matter which island he went to. If he found that it wasn't a habitable island, and he couldn't go to other islands, he could just return here. The Strange program had already recorded the array to the Central region. Moreover, it wasn't just the array to the Central region. The information of the other array was also recorded in detail by the Strange program. To humans, it would take a long time to record an array, especially the teleportation arrays in the Star Ocean. That was because these teleportation glyph arrays were too precise. If they would be recorded by hand, it would take years or even decades to complete. However, to the Strange program, it would only take a few minutes. If Yuan Shu, who created the star map, had the help of the Strange program, it wouldn't have taken a lifetime. If Yang Tian was willing, he could learn from Yuan Shu and make the star map his life goal. His achievements would be much greater than Yuan Shu's. When they heard that Yang Tian had chosen Frost Island, the little green turtle in Huey Chan-chan's arms suddenly cried out. The little green turtle was very quiet and didn't move much. This was the habit of turtles. Now that it cried out, it obviously wanted to express its opinion. Huey Chan-chan knew what the little green turtle meant and said to Yang Tian, "Little turtle says that it wants to go to Spatial Boundary Island. It has it in its memories." The little blue dragon wanted to go home, and so did the little green turtle. Any intelligent life form would have such feelings. Yang Tian had chosen Frost Island randomly. Since the little green turtle wanted to go to Spatial Boundary Island, he naturally agreed. After the Strange program's inspection, the 12 arrays were well preserved. Perhaps no one had come here after Yuan Shu left. The materials used to create these arrays were very stable. They wouldn't be destroyed even after hundreds of millions of years. The teleportation arrays in the universe consumed a lot of energy. Each teleportation required 3 beast cores, and they were beast cores from exotic beasts in the universe. After Yang Tian took out the 3 beast cores, he thought that he would need a lot of beast cores when he teleported more and more in the future. When he had the chance to hunt exotic beasts in the future, he would kill more of them. After putting the 3 beast cores into the grooves of the array that had been extinguished for an unknown amount of time, finally lit up with blue light. Whoosh, boom! After stepping onto the teleportation array and the blue light disappeared, Yang Tian and the others suddenly heard the sound of wind above their heads. Then there was a loud crash. Ew! In the eyes of Yang Tian and the others, a giant yellow turtle let out a miserable howl and fell from the sky. It crashed into the ice floating on the water. A huge wave rose from the water and slammed toward Yang Tian and the others. Yang Tian didn't expect to see 2 giant beasts fighting as soon as he appeared. When he saw the huge wave, he raised his hands and pushed it forward. With Yang Tian's help, the huge wave split apart and passed by Yang Tian and the others. The sky suddenly darkened as a giant black bird with a sharp beak fell from the sky and plunged into the water. With a poof, a water column that was hundreds of meters tall rose from the water. The black bird disappeared into it. Then, the water in front of Yang Tian and the others seemed to be boiling. Many bubbles rose from the water, and a gurgling sound could be heard. After a while, with a splash, the giant black bird grabbed the giant yellow turtle and rose from the water. It flapped its wings and flew toward the sky. When the giant black bird flapped its wings, the bloody water on its body was shaken off. A bloody rain started to fall, and the air was filled with a strong smell of blood. At this time, Yang Tian looked through the curtain of rain and saw the giant yellow turtle's head drooping. On its back, there was a huge hole. After the blackbird grabbed the giant yellow turtle and left, the water in front of Yang Tian and the others had turned red. Yang Tian looked into the distance and saw a large number of blackbirds circling in the sky. From time to time, a blackbird would dive down. It was obvious that the scene of blackbirds preying on giant turtles was happening all over Kongjing Island. Chapter 872. The talisman formation that Yang Tian and the others were in was built on a red reef that protruded out of the water. At a glance, the wide surface of the water was filled with protruding reefs. There were big and small reefs. The big ones protruded out of the water for hundreds of meters and took up several square kilometers. The small ones only protruded out of the water for tens of meters. On these reefs, giant turtles were lying on their stomachs. They stretched their necks and howled at the giant blackbirds flying in the sky. Their howls were filled with anger. The giant tortoise was as big as a mountain. It looked like a small mountain as it floated on the surface of the water. Their colors were also different. Some were black, some were green, and some were red. Yang Tian saw a giant tortoise floating on the surface of the water. It was actually golden in color. The giant blackbirds circled in the sky and swooped down from time to time. They were shaped like eagles, but their beaks were sharp like spears. The giant blackbirds were also of different sizes. The smallest had a wingspan of about 5 to 6 meters. The largest was even bigger than the giant golden turtle. Its wingspan was more than 100 meters. It was simply a giant in the sky. This was obviously a battle between two beasts. The giant blackbirds flew in the sky and were agile. Although they were the same size, the blackbirds had the advantage. The giant turtles were not defenseless. Yang Tian observed for a while and saw that many giant blackbirds quickly floated up after diving into the water. Then they stopped moving. Clearly, they had become corpses. Then, many smaller turtles floated up and ate the blackbirds' corpses. Some giant blackbirds were burned by the giant turtles' flames and fell from the sky. They fell into the water and created huge waves. Yang Tian watched the battle for a while. Then, he turned around and looked at the little green turtle in Hui Chanchan's arms. The little green turtle's appearance surprised Yang Tian. At this time, the little green turtle opened its eyes and stared at the sky. In the distance, a giant turtle was being grabbed by a giant blackbird. It was flying further and further away. When it disappeared from sight, the little green turtle turned around and looked at Yang Tian. It also felt Yang Tian looking at it. Seeing Yang Tian staring at it, the little green turtle let out a few woo-woo sounds. Hui Chanchan said, "Little green turtle said that the giant turtles here are not of its race. The clan it belonged to have been chased out of the island by the turtle clan, and they've always been wandering outside." Yang Tian finally understood why the green tortoise wasn't angry when it saw the giant tortoise being killed. The same type of beast was actually divided into many groups. For example, the Dragon Clan, the Black Dragon Clan, the Yellow Dragon Clan, Azure Dragon Clan. It was obvious that the little green turtle was filled with resentment towards the Turtle Clan on Sky Boundary Island. Since little green tortoise didn't care, Yang Tian didn't bother to meddle in other people's business. Yang Tian took advantage of the fact that the two beast tribes were not attacking him. He squatted down and began to examine the rune array beneath his feet. Yang Tian decided that every time he arrived at an island in the future, he would record the location of the teleportation array. This way, he would be able to collect more information about the teleportation arrays and the islands. It might be useful in the future. With the existence of a strange program, it took him less than half an hour to record the teleportation array. The battle between the Turtle Clan and the Blackbird Clan continued. The two clans suffered casualties, but overall, the Turtle Clan suffered the most. If the battle between the beast tribes was for islands, it would usually last for a long time. After recording the array, Yang Tian glanced at the little green turtle in Hui Chanchan's arms. He discovered that it had already retracted its head into its shell. He didn't know whether it was because it didn't want to see the Turtle Clan die, or because it couldn't bear to see the Turtle Clan die. Although it was unhappy with the Turtle Clan here, They were still of the same clan, right? Bea and Hui. Ichan-chan watched the battle between the two beast tribes with their eyes wide open. Their eyes were filled with shock and curiosity. The environment of Sky Boundary Island was good. The temperature was just right. Although there were no glowing balls in the sky and no glowing plants on the reef, the entire world was lit up. Who are you? Why have you intruded into my clan's territory? Suddenly, a woman emerged from the water and stood on the surface. She looked at Yang Tian's group and asked. She wore green clothes and had long red hair. Her eyes were cold. When she stared at Yang Tian, she couldn't help but frown. She could sense the energy ripples within Bea and Hui, Ichan-chan, but she couldn't see Yang Tian's strength. As for the little green turtle, she only glanced at it. The little green turtle didn't have the aura of the same clan. She emerged from the water, and the giant turtles nearby didn't attack her. Clearly, she belonged to the turtle clan. Yang Tian looked at the turtle shell and felt curious. How did this turtle clan beauty manage to make her turtle shell disappear? Just as Yang Tian was thinking, Hui Chan-chan said, "We came here by accident. Don't worry. We have no enmity towards the turtle clan." Perhaps because of the little green turtle, Hui Chan-chan had a good impression of the turtle clan. If it hadn't been for the little green turtle's opinion, she would have asked Yang Tian to help the turtle clan. Hui Chan-chan knew that Yang Tian was an expert with a demigod personality. He was one of the top experts in the entire galaxy. What she didn't know was that Yang Tian couldn't completely control the power of the insect origin. Because of this, Yang Tian's mind was constantly digesting the information of the insect clan's inheritance. After Hui, Ichan-chan finished speaking, she turned to look at the little green turtle. At this moment, the little green turtle had already poked its head out of its shell. When she saw the pair of horns on the little green turtle's head, she was shocked. Then, she became excited. Royal clan. After being stunned for a moment, she couldn't help but mumble. Hearing that little green turtle was royalty, Hui Ichan-chan smiled happily. After glancing at the surrounding situation, he said to Yang Tian and the others, "Please follow me." With that, she dived into the water. "Brother Yang, are we going?" Hui Chan-chan asked Yang Tian as she glanced at the ripples created by the little green turtle's dive. Yang Tian smiled. "I want to see the turtle clan's water palace." With that, Yang Tian dived into the water. After diving for dozens of meters, Yang Tian turned around and saw that the little green turtle had turned into a huge turtle. Hui Ichan-chan and Bea were standing on its back. The little green turtle's 4 legs had turned into duck feet as it slowly paddled in the water. Following the energy ripples left behind by the little green turtle, Yang Tian finally saw the water palace after diving for hundreds of meters. This was a huge group of palaces built at the bottom of the water. The bottom half of each palace was square, rectangular, and so on. The top was triangular. From afar, it looked like it was built with blocks. The palaces were built with white stone from the bottom of the water. At the top of each palace was a huge, glowing sphere. The light from the outside couldn't reach the bottom of the water. These glowing spheres were the light source of this underwater world. They were as bright as day. Soon, Yang Tian saw the little green turtle standing on the ground in front of the largest palace. Behind her was a large group of people wearing clothes of various colors. At this moment, the little green turtle suddenly sped up and landed in front of the little green turtle. Once the little green turtle arrived, the group of people knelt down in front of it and prostrated themselves on the ground. Then, these people shouted, "Your Majesty!" Chapter 873. Woo! The azure turtle cried out a few times. The people of the turtle clan stood up. Then, the beauty who had brought Yang Tian's group over made a gesture of invitation to Yang Tian's group. Little green tortoise strode toward the main hall in front of it in an imposing manner. At this moment, a disdainful smile appeared on Yang Tian's face. Just then, he had observed the expressions of the people of the turtle clan and discovered that they were not truly respectful to the azure turtle. Since they looked down on the azure turtle, why had they brought the king back? He had to be on guard against this. He had to avoid being tricked by the turtle clan. Since they were intelligent life forms, they would naturally form a civilization when gathered together. The square and imposing palace, the strange patterns on the pillars, the etiquette of welcoming guests, and the clothes of the clansmen all indicated that the turtle clan was a high-class civilization, even though they were a beast race. The hall of the turtle clan was grand and spacious. There was a tall seat facing the entrance. Just a few inches into the middle of the hall, one of the skinny old men made a gesture of invitation to the little green turtle, indicating that the little green turtle should sit at the top. However, although the seat was spacious, it was not something the azure turtle could sit on unless it could take human form. The little green tortoise stopped and turned its head around. It looked at the old man with angry eyes. Hui Chan hurriedly said, "The little turtle is still unable to take human form." This was not a big deal to the beast race. The greater the potential within the bloodline, the harder it would be to take human form. However, after Hui Chan finished speaking, a sliver of disdain flashed through the eyes of the old man and the other people of the turtle clan. Yang Tian took in all their reactions. He could not stand their hypocrisy and sneered. "Let's not be so courteous. If you have something to say, just say it. This is our clan's business. It's not for an outsider like you to butt in." As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, a young turtle clan member in red robes could not help but roar. Although the azure turtle was the ruler of the turtle clan, its sudden arrival could not help but affect the interests of some of the clansmen. Yang Tian ignored the roar of the turtle clan member with a smile. At this moment, the little green tortoise whined again. Hui Chan then said loudly, "Brother Yang's words are equivalent to little turtle's words." Oomph. The moment Hui Chan finished speaking, the young man from the turtle clan let out a dissatisfied snort. At this time, the old man smiled and said to Yang Tian, "It's our fault. You saw it when you came. My clan is being attacked by Hey Mo Sky Boundary Island was half land and half water. The Black Missouri clan and my clan each occupy half of the territory. For a long time, we have maintained a relatively peaceful state. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, the entire Black Missouri clan came to invade us. The Haimo clan has always been stronger than my clan. This time, my clan is in danger of being exterminated. To defeat the Black Missouri clan, we need the royal family. Only the power of the royal family can activate the defensive array glyphs of our clan." Before the old man had even finished speaking, a red-armored warrior from the Turtle clan suddenly rushed in. He bowed to the old man and said, "Patriarch, our warriors can't last much longer. The reinforcements from the water race are still on the way. Get out." As soon as the messenger finished speaking, the old man yelled with a dark expression, "The cat is out of the bag." Now, Yang Tian understood everything. Yang Tian laughed. The old man also laughed. Both of their smiles were very fake. After laughing, Yang Tian turned around and walked toward the door. He said indifferently, "Let's go." The little green turtle, Hui Chan, and Bea all looked furious. They all understood that they had only been invited here to be used. "Stop!" Before Yang Tian's group reached the door, a cold yell came from behind them. Then, the young man who had yelled at Yang Tian blocked Yang Tian's path. "What do you want?" Yang Tian asked with a smile. The young man looked at Yang Tian and sneered. "Since you're here, how can we let you leave so easily? Get to activate the defensive talisman formation. Perhaps we can consider it." After the young man finished speaking, Yang Tian said indifferently, "I finally understand why the little turtle ignored its clansmen being slaughtered by the Haimo clan. If it were me, I would do the same. Don't be unreasonable. Let's talk nicely." With that, the old man appeared before Yang Tian with a flash. He said, "Our clan has always been very friendly to our guests. If this royal clan member can help us activate the talisman formation, I guarantee that you can leave safely. And if I don't?" Yang Tian sneered. The old man said, "You've all seen the situation outside. The Haimo clan is brutal. If our clan is destroyed, you will all die, Before the old patriarch of the turtle clan could finish speaking, a great boom rang out from outside. Afterward, the water outside the palace began to tremble. The sturdy palace shook as well. The situation had reached a critical point for the turtle clan. Seeing the old patriarch's pleading gaze, Yang Tian slowly shook his head. Although the patriarch had spoken politely, there was still a hint of threat in his words. He had just said it better than the young man. Oof. Seeing that Yang Tian still refused, the impatient young man squinted his eyes and snorted coldly. He reached out to grab Yang Tian. The young man's strength was on par with Wu Lu's. It was no wonder that he could stand in the palace and not be sent out to fight the Haimo clan. Yang Tian definitely wouldn't have been the young man's opponent before he had obtained the legacy of the insect race. But now, the young man's battle prowess was far inferior to Yang Tian's. The young man wanted to capture Yang Tian, Hui, Chan Chan, and Bea. That way, he could threaten the green turtle and make it obedient. The turtle clan was a race with a relatively high level of civilization. They had a special characteristic, which was that they did not believe in royalty. Before the young man's hand could even touch Yang Tian had already grabbed his wrist. After that, Yang Tian forcefully pushed it forward. The young man's body flew out of the palace like a rock and smashed into the stone steps outside. Everyone go. Take them down. Seeing that the young man had been easily defeated by Yang Tian, the patriarch had no choice but to give the order. Other than the beauty who had brought Yang Tian and the others to the palace, the other members of the turtle clan immediately spread out and surrounded Yang Tian and the others. Boom! Suddenly, there was another loud bang. The palace shook once again. Afterward, there was a series of whooshing sounds as countless black figures descended. At this moment, the Haimo clan had already reached the palace. When the Haimo clan fought outside, they used their original form. Now that they were underwater, it was no longer convenient for them to use their original form. As such, they transformed into their human form. They all wore black armor and looked very powerful. The patriarch looked outside the palace and shook his head helplessly. It was already too late for the green turtle to activate the talisman array. Among the Haimo clan, a tall middle-aged man walked toward the palace with a cold smile on his face. Only then did the red-clothed young man, who had fallen at the bottom of the stairs, come to his senses. He got up with a horrified expression on his face and rushed toward the palace. But before he could reach the palace, the middle-aged man from the Haimo clan raised his hand. A powerful suction force came from his hand and sucked the young man into his hand. Chapter 874. After grabbing the young man in red, the middle-aged man pushed his arm against the young man's back. With a plop, his arm passed through the young man's chest. The young man let out an unwilling cry. He was in so much pain that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His head drooped down. At this moment, the middle-aged man was holding a fist-sized, multicolored beast core in his hand. After throwing away the corpse hanging from his arm, he opened his mouth and put the beast core into his mouth. Ka-ka-ka sound were heard. At this moment, the patriarch of the turtle clan finally reacted. He cried out and charged toward the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man from the Haimo clan smiled and threw a punch at the patriarch of the turtle clan. The punch was very powerful and extremely condensed. Water could not be compressed, so the range of the attack was even greater. The patriarch of the turtle clan was still 10 meters away from the middle-aged man when he was struck by the compressed water. His body flew through the door and into the hall before sliding to Yang Tian's feet. Yang Tian lowered his head and glanced at him before retreating to the side. Cough, cough, cough. The patriarch of the turtle clan let out a series of coughs as he stood up while holding his chest. The power that the middle-aged man had displayed was extremely great. Yang Tian stared at him and could not help but frown. The middle-aged man had noticed Yang Tian long ago. His sixth sense told him that Yang Tian was his greatest threat. Sensing that Yang Tian was looking at him, he looked over as well. Their gazes collided. Yang Tian smiled. The middle-aged man was stunned. He then looked away and waved his hand, "Kill." As soon as he finished speaking, the warriors of the Haimo clan charged toward the hall. At this moment, the warriors of the Turtle clan who had been fighting on the surface of the water returned to the bottom. Soon, the two groups of beasts clashed and began to fight each other at the bottom of the water. The clear bottom of the water was gradually dyed red with blood. The greatest enemy of the Turtle clan was the Haimo clan, not Yang Tian. When the Haimo warriors charged into the hall, the Turtle clansmen clashed with them. Yang Tian and the others immediately retreated to the side. The middle-aged beauty who brought Yang Tian and the others to the underwater palace did not participate in the battle. Instead, she stayed by Yang Tian's side. Yang Tian did not object to the woman's request for protection. Once the Turtle clan in the hall was done for, he would still need this woman. At this time, Yang Tian had already figured out how to help the little green turtle become the real king here. When they left the continent, Yang Tian brought Hui and Chan Chan with him because he wanted the little green turtle to lead the way. And now, the little green tortoise's mission had been completed. If Hui, Chan Chan, and little green turtle were to follow him in the future, it would be dangerous for Yang Tian, Hui, and Chan Chan. The battle in the hall did not last for very long before a victor was decided. Most of the several dozen Turtle clansmen in the hall had been killed and their beast cores taken by the Haimo clan. Only the patriarch and 9 other people had been captured. The higher one's status was, the more authority they enjoyed and the more they feared death. The middle-aged man ignored Yang Tian and the others. He lifted the patriarch up and sneered. "Hand it over. I can let the Turtle clan continue to exist, and I can guarantee that I will not invade your clan in the future. After all, my clan cannot survive in the water, and your flesh is not tasty." All right. The patriarch nodded in agreement under the middle-aged man's threat. He was afraid that the man would lose control and crush him to death. The corner of Yang Tian's lips curled as he sneered when he saw this. Seeing that the patriarch of the Turtle clan had agreed, the middle-aged man let go of the Turtle clan. The patriarch immediately pulled out a red bead from his storage bracelet as he sat on the ground. The red bead gave off a faint red glow and was covered in black inscriptions. It seemed extremely profound. "Oh," the middle-aged man smiled and extended his hand towards the red bead in the patriarch's hand. At this moment, the azure turtle's cry rang out. Something strange happened. The red bead passed through the middle-aged man's hand and flew towards the azure turtle. The azure turtle opened its mouth and swallowed the bead. The middle-aged man grabbed nothing. He turned his head and angrily stared at the azure turtle. He coldly said, "Hand it over." "What is this red bead?" Yang Tian turned his head and looked at the beauty of the Turtle clan hiding beside him. The beauty replied, "This is a water vein bead. It can constantly absorb the power of the water veins in Sky Boundary Island for cultivation. It's a pity that only those with a royal bloodline can use it. The Haimo clan obtaining it is no different from obtaining a piece of rock." With that, the middle-aged man smiled. "Of course we know it's useless. Your Turtle clan can survive in the water as well as on land. If someone awakens a royal bloodline and has the water vein bead, it'll only be a matter of time before you surpass my Haimo clan. At that time, will my Haimo clan still have room to live on Sky Boundary Island?" The middle-aged man looked at Yang Tian and said, "If it spits out the water vein bead, I'll let you go. Otherwise, it won't just be the Turtle clan. You'll have to stay behind too." The Haimo clan was violent and straightforward. The middle-aged man said this to Yang Tian because he was afraid of Yang Tian. Otherwise, he would have already taken it. Even with the water vein bead, it would take a long time for the azure turtle to surpass the strongest of the Haimo clan. At this moment, the azure turtle posed no threat to the Haimo clan. The Turtle clan had threatened Yang Tian before, but Yang Tian hadn't cooperated. Now, it was the same for the powerful Haimo clan. Faced with the middle-aged man's cold gaze, Yang Tian said indifferently, "Let's fight. If you defeat me, I'll have the azure turtle give you the water vein bead. How about it?" "Okay." The middle-aged man from the Hayamo clan was startled for a moment, but he quickly agreed. The two of them looked at each other and slowly walked into the hall. "What's your name?" the middle-aged man asked as he walked. "Yang Tian, what about you?" Yang Tian said his name and asked the other party. The middle-aged man replied, "I'm Hayamo. I used to be famous, but after becoming the patriarch, I'm called Hayamo." After a short conversation, the two of them walked into the hall. Yang Tian looked into Hayamo's eyes and said indifferently, "I'll definitely defeat you and let you go. When you leave, take those fellows with you." The moment Yang Tian said that, the patriarch and the other 9 immediately turned ashen. It was very obvious that Yang Tian didn't need them anymore. Letting the Hayamo clan take them away was the best choice. That way, Yang Tian would help the Azure Turtle get rid of the unstable elements in the clan, and the surviving clansmen wouldn't be dissatisfied with the Azure Turtle. "He's too vicious," the 10 clansmen sighed inside at the same time. At this moment, they couldn't help but think of something that happened in the distant past of the Turtle clan. Hayamo wasn't surprised by Yang Tian's special request. As a patriarch, he obviously understood why Yang Tian wanted to do this. The two of them looked at each other for a while before Hayamo moved and attacked first. Chapter 875. Hayamo chose to do it the hard way. He quickly appeared in front of Yang Tian and punched at Yang Tian's chest. Under the water pressure, as soon as Hayamo punched, a powerful force was transmitted to Yang Tian. Bang! When Yang Tian heard a muffled sound, he could no longer stand still and was pushed back by the powerful force. Hayamo, who saw Yang Tian as a strong opponent, used his most powerful force. "I still don't have enough experience fighting in the water." Yang Tian sighed in his mind and stopped. This result disappointed Hayamo because Yang Tian was pushed back less than 10 steps. Phew! After standing still, Yang Tian let out a long breath. Hayamo, who had punched at Yang Tian, did not continue to attack Yang Tian. Instead, he stopped. "Now it's my turn," Yang Tian said lightly as he looked into Hayamo's eyes. Yang Tian's voice was still echoing in his ears when Hayamo realized that Yang Tian had disappeared from his sight. Behind him, when Hayamo realized what had happened, he received a heavy blow from his back. After receiving the punch, Hayamo's performance was far worse than Yang Tian's. Yang Tian's punch directly broke Hayamo's spine. His upper body drooped down, and his strong body slammed into the ground. At this time, Hayamo was already heavily injured. Yang Tian could have easily killed him. However, Yang Tian stopped. He had said before that even if he defeated Hayamo, he would not kill him. The reason why Yang Tian let Hayamo go was not because he sympathized with Hayamo, but because he was thinking about the little green turtle. The turtle tribe on Sky Boundary Island had been heavily injured, and more than half of them had died. The Hayamo clan still had powerful combat power. If Hayamo was killed, the Hayamo clan would lose their minds and slaughter the turtle tribe. Even if Yang Tian killed all of the Hayamo clan in the end, it wouldn't benefit the little green turtle at all. Only with the existence of enemies would there be a sense of crisis, and only with a sense of crisis could people be motivated. Yang Tian didn't want the little green turtle to live in a peaceful environment in the future and end up like the turtle clan, who were all alone and killed by enemies. Hayamo endured the intense pain and turned his upper body to look at Yang Tian. This glance caused Hayamo to be incomparably shocked. This was because he saw the bug-shaped mark on Yang Tian's forehead. This didn't mean that Yang Tian had a godhead, but it also meant that Yang Tian was an insectoid. This was impossible. No matter what, Hayamo did not believe that Yang Tian was from the bug tribe. That was because the aura that Yang Tian gave off was clearly a human aura. Regardless of whether Yang Tian had a godhead or whether Yang Tian was from the insect tribe, these 2 points were enough to terrify him. When Yang Tian saw the shock on Hayamo's face, he knew what Hayamo had seen. The insect tribe was an existence that struck fear into both humans and beasts. Yang Tian didn't want others to misunderstand, but there was nothing he could do. If he wanted to defeat Hayamo, he had to use the power of the insect origin world. If he used this power, his bug-shaped mark would appear. Hayamo opened his mouth to ask, but he closed it in the end. Yang Tian indifferently said, "Don't worry, I'm not an insect. I just unintentionally obtained the power of the insect race." Hayamo nodded, before turning around with great difficulty. This fellow's recovery was astonishing. In less than 10 minutes, he had crawled up from the ground. After taking a deep look at Yang Tian, he ordered his subordinates to lead the Turtle Clan members out of the hall. A while later, not a single member of the Haimo clan remained. After the Haimo clan took away all the useless people, the survivors of the Turtle Clan gathered in the hall under the summons of a beautiful woman from the Turtle Clan. The middle-aged woman was called Lu Su. She was an elder of the Turtle Clan. Yang Tian had kept her around so that the Azure Turtle would have an extra helper in the future. If he killed off all the upper echelon of the Turtle Clan, it would be extremely difficult to gather the survivors. The island was not large. There were over 100,000 Turtle Clan members living in the region of water. After the battle, less than 5,000 of them had survived. Most of the turtles that numbered less than 5,000 were heavily injured. It could be predicted that the Turtle Clan on the island would be in a weakened state for a very long period of time. Fortunately, according to Lu Su, as long as the defensive formations in the region of water were activated, the Haimo clan would not be able to reach the bottom of the water, even if they were twice as powerful. Under the protection of the formations, the Azure Turtle's cultivation would rapidly increase with the passage of time. Once the Turtle Clan reappeared on the surface of the water, it would probably be the day the Haimo clan was wiped out. The several thousand members of the Turtle Clan left the hall to recuperate after greeting their king, the Azure Turtle. Why did the royal clan of the Turtle Clan end up outside? Yang Tian asked curiously after the hall was empty. Lu Su sighed. That was a very, very long time ago. Our Turtle Clan was also threatened by the Haimo clan. Their condition for ceasing the war was for the royal clan to leave the island. A few elders who wanted to seize power worked together and forced the royal clan to leave. The king was very kind back then. In his grief, he left the island with the royal clan and never returned. After the royal clan left, the Haimo clan really did not wage war against us for a very long time. However, the small-scale battles never stopped. The region of water we lived in had been buried by the Haimo clan using rocks along the shore. The region of water originally took up 2/3 of the island, but it's less than half now. Ever since the royal clan left, our clan became weaker and weaker. Even when we realized this later on, the elders of the past were unwilling to go to the Sea of Stars and find the royal clan for the sake of power. The royal clan seems to be different from the regular Turtle Clan. Yang Tian asked curiously after Lu Su finished speaking. Lu Su nodded. They're indeed different. The bloodline of the royal clan is naturally filled with great power. On the other hand, regular turtles can't awaken it no matter how much they cultivate. Yang Tian chuckled after Lu Su finished speaking. Being unable to awaken actually meant that they could not endure hardship or loneliness. Yang Tian knew an example. It was the giant god. Before the giant god obtained great power, he was still a herbivore. This was not the Turtle Clan's fault. The environment of the island was just too good. As the saying went, they were born in hardship and died in peace. The Turtle Clan calmed down. After the Azure Turtle activated the Talisman Formation defense underwater, Yang Tian left the region of water with the little blue dragon and continued to hunt the Haimo clan. Yang Tian only stopped when he had collected 100 satisfactory beast cores. When Yang Tian was hunting the Haimo clan, the patriarch did not even fart because he was afraid of Yang Tian. At the same time, Yang Tian did not cross Haimo clan's bottom line. This was the law of survival in the Sea of Stars. The strong preyed on the weak. After collecting 100 beast cores, Yang Tian prepared to leave the island. The Azure Turtle naturally had to stay. This was its home, and Hui-chan had to stay as well. Her relationship with the Azure Turtle was similar to Yang Tian's relationship with the little blue dragon. Moreover, When the azure turtle used the water vein pearl to cultivate, Huey-chan would also receive half of its energy. With her talent, it was only a matter of time before she became a powerhouse in the Sea of Stars. When Yang Tian was about to bid farewell to Huey-chan and the azure turtle, another group of beasts came to the island. They were the reinforcements that the patriarch had invited earlier, the Water Tribe. Chapter 876. 2 chapters in 1. As the only elder in charge of the turtle race, Lu Su couldn't help but panic when she heard about the arrival of the water race. No matter how stupid she was, she knew that the water race was intentionally stalling for time so that they could take over Sky Boundary Island. The environment of Sky Boundary Island was just too good. The first thing Lu Su did was to find Yang Tian and voice his concerns. At this time, the little green turtle and Hui Chan were cultivating hard. Unless Yang Tian had something to do, they weren't to be disturbed. How stupid was your previous leader to want to borrow the help of other races? Yang Tian couldn't help but sigh when he heard about the arrival of the water race. On Earth, even a 3-year-old child knew that it was dangerous to invite a wolf into the house. The neighboring islands in the Star Ocean all had similar environments. This might have confirmed a legend, which was that there were originally not so many islands in the Sea of Stars, but rather an entire continent. After this extremely vast continent was shattered, it separated, drifting in the Sea of Stars for a long time, and the distance between the fragments of the continent grew larger and larger. The water race's water island was the closest to Sky Boundary Island, but the environment wasn't as good. The water on the water island took up more than 4/5 of the entire island. Because the water wasn't strong, the temperature on the water island was half hot and half cold. Only the border was the most comfortable place. The water island was very large, and the beasts on it all lived in the water. Although the water race wasn't good at flying in the Star Ocean, they only needed 2 or 3 days to reach Sky Boundary Island. They should have arrived long before the Hymo race attacked the bottom of the water. For them to dawdle for so long before appearing, there was no need to guess what their intentions were. The Hymo race definitely wouldn't care if the water race fought for the turtle race's territory. They wanted the water race to kill the turtle race and enter the waters of Sky Boundary Island. This was because the water race was a multi-ethnic race, unlike the turtle race. It was much easier to deal with the water race's ragtag army than the turtle race. While Yang Tian and Lu Su were discussing, the water race had already entered the waters of Sky Boundary Island. Standing in front of the palace, they could see the water race swimming outside. Because the talisman formations were activated, the palaces were protected and the water race couldn't enter. Logically speaking, as long as they hid in the palace, they should be safe. However, doing so is no different from going to jail. Water and air are the same. Both are easily contaminated. When a large number of water-kind creatures moved into this area, the energy contained in the water would drop rapidly. Yang Tian stood in front of the door and observed for a moment. He had a deep understanding. After a large number of aquatic creatures had arrived, the water had obviously become much murkier. Since he had already helped Little Green Tortoise, why not help it one more time? The most direct method was to kill. He would use slaughter to instill fear in the water tribe. He would kill them until they would feel fear whenever they heard about Kongjing Island. Xiaolong, go kill them, Yang Tian said to the little blue dragon on his shoulder after observing for a while. Ever since it swallowed that glowing ball, the little blue dragon's strength had greatly increased. After coming to Sky Boundary Island, it understood the situation and knew that Yang Tian could handle it without its help. Thus, it spent most of its time sleeping, digesting the enormous energy it had just obtained. Now that it was time to leave, the little blue dragon naturally woke up. After not fighting for a while, the little blue dragon also felt its claws itching, especially after seeing the dense crowd of water race outside. Dragons could fly and dive. It was an all-around combat exotic beast. Moreover, its combat ability in the water was increased by another level. While Lu Su was worried, Yang Tian was happy. because Yang Tian wasn't satisfied with collecting 100 beast cores. Killing all the Haimo tribe on Sky Boundary Island didn't suit Yang Tian's intentions. Now that tens of thousands of aquatic creatures had arrived, wouldn't the beast cores be piled up into a mountain? As long as these aquatic creatures were killed, Yang Tian wouldn't have to worry about a lack of beast cores for a long time. Compared to the little azure dragon, the water tribe that entered the water territory was far too weak. This was simply giving Yang Tian food. As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, the little blue dragon flew out. After leaving the area covered by the rune formation, it immediately transformed into a giant dragon. Seeing this, the silent Bea couldn't help but become excited. He understood the combat ability of Yang Tian and the little blue dragon. Even if these tens of thousands of aquatic creatures worked together, they wouldn't be a match for the little blue dragon and Yang Tian. Bea expected that Yang Tian's storage bracelet would be filled with beast cores. Yang Tian, I want beast cores. Bea finally couldn't help but speak his mind. He felt that since Yang Tian had obtained so many beast cores, it shouldn't be a problem to split a few dozen or even a few hundred of them. Yang Tian laughed and patted Bea's shoulder. Xiao Long is in the mood to kill and doesn't have time to take beast cores. You can go and help. After you're done, I'll give you 10%. Yang Tian liked straightforward people. Now that Bea had directly spoken his desire, Yang Tian was very happy. Yes, Bea nodded and immediately left the area covered by the rune formation. With Bea's combat ability, he would be in danger if he went outside. Yang Tian wasn't going to help. He was just going to watch. How could he not take risks if he wanted to obtain benefits? Since the day he became a martialist, Yang Tian had risked his life every time he obtained benefits. When Bea left the rune formation, the little blue dragon had already killed a huge mutated beast that looked like an electric ray. This mutated beast really knew how to release electricity. When the little blue dragon approached it, it released a strong electric current at the little blue dragon. However, the little blue dragon was an expert in using electricity. Not only did the electric current not hurt the little blue dragon, but was also absorbed by the little blue dragon and stored in its own energy world. The little blue dragon, who had transformed into a giant dragon, crushed the mutated beast's head in one bite. Then, with a swing of its tail, it rushed towards the next marine creature. When the little blue dragon saw Bea running towards it from the bottom of the water with a knife, it understood what Bea was here for. There were at least 10 different kinds of aquatic creatures that came to this island. Some looked like crocodiles, some looked like sea snakes, and some looked like sharks. These creatures were all carnivorous aquatic creatures. No one knew what they ate to survive on this island. The electric ray that was killed by the little blue dragon slowly fell to the bottom of the water. Because the little blue dragon used its origin power, this big guy didn't bleed. The smell of blood didn't spread. Bea spent a lot of effort to break open this mutated beast body. It took him a few minutes to find the beast core in the corpse. At this time, the little blue dragon had already killed dozens of marine creatures. The little blue dragon was killing the marine creatures very easily. As the mutated beasts were killed one by one, the little blue dragon's aura kept increasing. Yang Tian felt the change in the little blue dragon and smiled happily. This was because Yang Tian understood that the little blue dragon needed to train after absorbing a large amount of energy. Mutated beasts were different from humans. If humans killed too much, they would lose their minds. However, a mythical beast like the little blue dragon wouldn't. Their ability was to destroy. The invading marine creatures weren't even half killed by the little blue dragon before they started to run away. Yang Tian had been watching from the side. He wanted to ensure that all the water tribe members remain here. A shark-like marine creature rushed out of the water, turned into a human, and flew into the air. Just as he let out a sigh of relief, he felt a pain in his chest. He felt an invisible force pass through his body. At the last moment of his life, he saw Yang Tian's face. Before the corpse of this shark fell into the water, Yang Tian's figure flashed past it. The beast core in its body had already been taken by Yang Tian. These marine creatures were all low-level, mutated beasts. Yang Tian knew that the high-level marine creatures were definitely still in the Star Sea. The ones that came here were only used to scout the way. These beast cores didn't have much cultivation value to Yang Tian at the moment, but they could be used as a source of energy for a glyph array. More and more marine creatures left the water. Yang Tian, who was in a killing mood, decided to transform into his dragon form. The number of marine creatures in the water decreased. In the end, the little blue dragon couldn't bear to use origin power anymore. This slowed down the speed at which the northern cliff collected beast cores. Because there was no origin power to destroy them, the corpses of the marine creatures were very hard. The huge commotion outside finally attracted the attention of the turtle tribe. Some of the turtle tribe members who could still fight rushed out when they saw the little blue dragon fighting for the turtle tribe. The battle in the water became even more intense. The little blue dragon and Yang Tian didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they saw this. This way, the number of beast cores they collected was much less than they had expected. The turtle tribe members weren't all idiots. They knew how to take advantage of the situation. Fortunately, the turtle tribe members didn't even touch the marine creatures that had been killed by the little blue dragon. They would only collect the beast cores from the corpses after personally killing them. After an unknown amount of time, the battle finally came to a stop. The thousands of kilometers of water that the turtle tribe occupied had become murky. The corpses of marine creatures floated on the surface of the water. There were even some turtle tribe corpses among them. There was a price to pay if one wanted to obtain benefits. The northern cliff was also injured. If it weren't for the little blue dragon's help, the northern cliff would have been a corpse by now. The air above the water was filled with a strong stench. There were even more corpses of marine creatures in the water. Many of them had been torn into pieces by the little blue dragon. After returning to the palace, he did some calculations and found that he had obtained a total of 31,700 beast cores. They were all low-level beast cores. The northern cliff was very honest and didn't hide anything. Yang Tian was also very generous. He gave over 700 beast cores to the northern cliff and kept 31,000 for himself. After this massacre, the waters of Sky Boundary Island needed to be cleaned up. Yang Tian didn't care about this anymore. Let Lu Su have a headache. After resting for a few days, Yang Tian planned to leave. The ones who had benefited the most from this trip to Sky Boundary Island were undoubtedly the little green turtle and Huey Chan Chan. Knowing that Yang Tian wanted to leave, Huey Chan Chan didn't ask him to stay. She knew that it would be useless even if she said it. Even if Yang Tian didn't ask her to stay, she would still make this decision. This was because she wouldn't be able to help much if she stayed by Yang Tian's side. Previously, the little green turtle could still help lead the way. Now, Yang Tian didn't need it anymore. Huey Chan Chan, the little green turtle, and Lu Su brought Yang Tian out of the water. Brother Yang, I will definitely work hard to cultivate. I will definitely help you in the future. Huey Chan Chan said to Yang Tian solemnly. Yang Tian smiled and nodded. He asked, Chan Chan, will you miss home if you stay here alone? Huey Chan Chan nodded. I miss brother and sister, but I'm not worried because they will always be alive. If their lifespans are like those ordinary humans on Earth, I won't leave. After Huey Chan Chan finished speaking, Lu Su handed a white stone tablet to Yang Tian and said, the teleportation formation to leave is at the Haimo clan. This is the map. Now, the Haimo clan will definitely hide far away if they see you. After saying that, Lu Su laughed. Although Yang Tian could protect the turtle clan, Lu Su felt a lot of pressure. Yang Tian looked at Lu Su and didn't smile. Instead, he said seriously, maybe I will come back. If something happens to Chan Chan and Little Green Turtle while you're still alive, I will kill you. Hearing Yang Tian's words, Lu Su couldn't help but shiver. After taking the stone tablet from Lu Su, Yang Tian only glanced at it before throwing it away. He walked toward the Haimo clan's territory and waved his hand from time to time. Parting always made people sad. Even though Yang Tian had cultivated to the half-god level, he still felt this way. Just as Lu Su said, the Haimo clan hid far away when they saw Yang Tian. They didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Yang Tian and Bea walked to the teleportation formation that was heavily protected by the Haimo clan without any obstruction. Of course, this was also related to the orders of the Haimo clan leader. When he learned that Yang Tian was about to leave Sky Boundary Island, Haimo was the happiest. The last time he was attacked by Yang Tian, he had suffered heavy injuries and had yet to fully recover. When the blue light disappeared, Yang Tian and the others arrived at the Four-Isle Island. This was a strange island. If one looked at it from above, it looked like four small round islands joined together. This was the island that Bea was familiar with. They weren't far from the Source Island. Bea patted his chest and promised Yang Tian that if they set off from the Four-Isle Island, he would be able to find the Source Island even with his eyes closed. The Four-Isle Island was very calm. It was an island similar to the Muddy Island. Yang Tian took out the fragment of the star sea map. When he didn't find any signal, he immediately decided to leave for the Source Island. When they arrived at the Four-Isle Island, Bea became more talkative. He told Yang Tian that the elders in the clan definitely knew where the little blue dragon's hometown was. Bea had already told Yang Tian about the appearance of a dragon on the Source Island. As long as the little blue dragon heard that there were other dragons, it would be extremely excited. Although it had been a long time, the happy little blue dragon transformed into a giant dragon and flew in the vast sea of stars under Bea's guidance. Bea wasn't bragging. After about 4 to 5 days, a giant island finally appeared in front of Yang Tian and the others. When Bea saw the island, he was so excited that tears flowed out. Bea couldn't remember exactly how long it had been since he left his home island, but he was sure that it had been a long time since then. He didn't know if his mother was still alive. While Bea was filled with excitement and anxiety, the little blue dragon finally landed on the Source Island. Is this a habitable island? After the little blue dragon landed, Yang Tian looked at the desolate scene in front of him and frowned. The Source Island was described by Bea as an island with a beautiful environment. At the very least, it wasn't any worse than the Muddy Island. However, there were no plants on this island. There was no oxygen or water in the air. This meant that there was no water source on this island. The light was very dim and the temperature was so low that Yang Tian felt very uncomfortable. Impossible. Bea was stunned for a long time when he saw the situation in front of him. Then he suddenly shouted. In order to make Bea believe him, Yang Tian had the little blue dragon carry him and Bea deeper into the island. The outer part of the island was better. The deeper they went, the harsher the environment became. Yang Tian pointed at the black rocks on the island and said to Bea, "It's obvious that there was a huge battle on this island. Look at these mountains. It's obvious that they were knocked down. Also, there's a small mountain over there. It should have been split in half by an axe or something like that. This is the Source Island. It's the Source Island." Puffed. Suddenly, Bea shouted a few times and spat out a mouthful of blood. He slid down from the little blue dragon's back. On the last day of 2016, I exploded. Chapter 877. By the time Bea woke up, an entire day had already passed. When he opened his eyes, what appeared in front of him was a stretch of ruins. This was once the grandest palace built by his clansmen. Humans were more skilled than beasts, and the palaces they built were all incomparably exquisite. After wandering in the sea of stars for a very long time, Bea had never seen a building that could compare to his hometown. But now it was all in ruins. His home was destroyed, but where were his clansmen? After waking up, Bea scanned his surroundings and grabbed Yang Tian's arm tightly. He gritted his teeth and said, "Save my clansmen. I beg you." Yang Tian nodded and said, "I've already checked the situation here, and I didn't find any corpses. Your clansmen should still be alive. Perhaps they were attacked by foreign clansmen and knew that they couldn't win, so they went to another island. If they encountered such a situation, where would they go?" As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, his eyebrows twitched unconsciously. He then lowered his head and fell in a deep thought. A few minutes later, Bea gritted his teeth and slowly shook his head. "If the island is destroyed, I don't know where my clansmen will go. The Sea of Stars is vast, but it's too difficult for us humans to find a place to stay. After speaking, Bea sighed helplessly. He looked at Yang Tian and said, I didn't understand the situation just now. I don't know where my clansmen went, and I don't know how they are now. You might not be able to help. The island was no longer a habitable island, so Yang Tian brought Bea back to the Four Islands Island. When they arrived at the Four Islands Island, Bea took the initiative to bid farewell to Yang Tian. He told Yang Tian that he would find a habitable island to settle down and work hard on his cultivation. When he became stronger, he would look for his clansmen. When he saw Yang Tian and the little blue dragon leave through the Four Islands Island's teleportation formation, Bea finally let out a sigh of relief and disappeared into the crowd of beasts on the Four Islands Island. Half a month later in the Ketless Star's time, on the destroyed island, in the ruins of the palace, Northcliffe pushed a huge rock to the side and sat down on the ground, letting out a long sigh. After seeing Yang Tian and the little blue dragon leave through the teleportation array, the Northcliffe returned to the vicinity of the teleportation array. He stayed there for half a day before leaving the Four Isles Island. He flew for a total of 10 days before returning to the Origin Island. He did this because he didn't want Yang Tian to know a big secret of the clan. After Northcliffe returned to the ruins of the palace, he kept moving boulders as if he was looking for something. After dozens of hours, he finally couldn't hold on any longer. Northcliffe panted heavily for a while, but there was no longer any air that was beneficial to his body, so he was unable to relieve his fatigue. Breathing on the current Origin Island was just a kind of biological instinct to prove that they were still alive. What the Northcliffe didn't know was that not far away, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were squatting behind a huge rock, gnawing on a piece of barbecued meat. There were 2 huge wine jars beside them. The aroma of the barbecued meat and the aroma of the wine permeated within the small range of the array formation's energy. Not only was the aroma unable to spread out, but even the light was refracted by the array formation into the vast sea of stars. This guy is really too impatient. If it were me, I would have stayed on the Four Isles Island for at least a month or 2. Also, his acting skills are really too bad, Yang Tian said as he tore into the greasy barbecued meat. The little blue dragon at the side would occasionally squeak in response to Yang Tian. After Yang Tian and the little blue dragon finished eating the barbecued meat, the Northcliffe got up from the ground and continued moving the heavy boulders. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon held their comfortable stomachs and squatted on a huge rock. They quietly watched all of this with smiles in their eyes. The Northcliffe should be looking for an underground passage or a teleportation array formation. Yang Tian was sure of this. Ha ha. When Northern Cliff lifted up another boulder and moved it to the side, he suddenly laughed happily. At this moment, what the Northcliffe didn't know was that other than him, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon were also happy. After moving the huge rock, the Northcliffe finally found an underground passage that could only allow one person to pass through. After laughing, the Northcliffe looked around vigilantly before entering the underground passage. After entering, the Northcliffe smashed a huge rock at the entrance with his palm. Amidst the loud explosion, the huge rock shattered and blocked the entrance. He's quite cautious. Xiaolong, go take a look, Yang Tian said with a smile as he watched the rubble collapse and block the entrance. The little blue dragon jumped up and did a spin in the air before charging into the pile of rocks. How could this be? That was impossible. Why? After passing through the winding passage, the Northcliffe reached the underground palace that was a few hundred meters deep. Looking at the destroyed array formation in the center of the underground palace and the withered corpses of humans and mutated beasts around the array formation, the Northcliffe couldn't believe his eyes. At this moment, he felt that he had been completely abandoned. Back when he returned to the Source Island with Yang Tian and saw the desolate scene, the Northcliffe was indeed in pain. However, later on, when Yang Tian asked him where the Northcliffe people would go, he suddenly recalled a legend he had heard when he was young. According to the legend, in the distant past, the Northcliffe people saved an injured divine dragon. When the divine dragon left, he gave the Northcliff people a huge gift. That was an undeveloped habitable island. To the divine dragon tribe that roamed the universe, it was actually very normal for them to discover a few habitable islands and give them to humans who needed them. The divine dragon tribe didn't care about these islands, but to the humans on the source island, they were spare living territories. They were places that could save lives. They were simply too precious. As such, the tribe leader and a few elders decided that they wouldn't use this spare island unless the tribe was in danger of being exterminated. The array formation in front of Northcliff was the teleportation array that led to the habitable island. Unfortunately, it had already been destroyed. There were a total of 3 human corpses and 2 very small beast corpses beside the array formation. From the degree of desiccation of the corpses, the little blue dragon, who was hiding at the side, could guess that the time of death of these people and beasts was several decades ago. Bea, who was in despair, suddenly shouted loudly. As if he had gone mad, he kept pounding the ground with his fists. Because he didn't use the energy in his body, his fists swelled up after a few hits, and blood splattered everywhere. Seeing this, the little blue dragon immediately turned around and flew back the way it came. When Yang Tian walked into the underground palace, Northcliff was still crying on the ground. He was in a state of selflessness, and he didn't even notice Yang Tian's footsteps. Yang Tian stood behind Northcliff and raised his head to look at the ceiling of the underground palace. In the middle of the curved ceiling of the underground palace, there was a huge, glowing crystal. From the energy waves it emitted, it was an ordinary runic treasure. A long time had passed, and the energy of the runic treasure used to light up the place was almost used up. The light it emitted was already very dim. Yang Tian took out a beast core. With a flick of his finger, he accurately sent the beast core into the groove on the crystal. Instantly, the underground palace became brighter. Author's note: I've rested for 2 days on New Year's Day. I'll be updating normally tomorrow. Chapter 878. The light in the underground palace became brighter. Only then did Northcliff notice that someone had arrived and was standing right behind him. Yang Tian did not hide his aura. Bea turned around abruptly and saw Yang Tian standing in front of him with a smile. "Didn't you leave?" Bea was shocked. Yang Tian smiled. "But I'm back." With that, Yang Tian walked around the broken talisman formation. Bea regretted it when he saw that the talisman formation was destroyed. He thought that if Yang Tian was here, he would definitely be able to repair the talisman formation. However, he could not let Yang Tian know because he did not want the secret of his tribe to be leaked. Although Yang Tian was also human, he was not from the same tribe. Seeing Yang Tian appear in front of him, Bea was first shocked. Then he became happy as hope rose in his heart. Seeing that Yang Tian was inspecting the talisman formation, Bea immediately stood up and ran to Yang Tian. He asked anxiously, "Can this talisman formation be repaired?" Yang Tian did not reply. Bea smiled awkwardly and said, "I'm really sorry. Our tribe does not allow outsiders to know this secret." Yang Tian turned around and looked at Bea. Then, he lowered his head and walked around the talisman formation. Bea had no choice but to tell the truth. This talisman formation is a teleportation formation that leads to our tribe's reserved territory. It was left behind by the injured divine dragon. With that, Yang Tian stopped walking. The little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder widened its eyes and stared at Bea. Bea felt the little blue dragon's gaze and scratched his head. "Now, there's nothing I can't say. A long time ago." With that, the little blue dragon's eyes shone brighter. It suddenly felt that it was one step closer to the Star Sea Dragon tribe. The little blue dragon turned around and looked at Yang Tian expectantly. However, Yang Tian said, "The glyph formation is completely destroyed. There are 3 key glyph characters missing." After he finished speaking, Yang Tian squatted down and used his finger to touch a scratch that was as wide as a finger. On this scratch, there were originally 3 coordinate runes. After Yang Tian finished speaking, the light in Bea's eyes dimmed. The little blue dragon on the other hand, took out a leaf from the world tree and started nibbling on it. Little Blue Dragon understood Yang Tian very well and knew that Yang Tian would have a way. Otherwise, at this time, Yang Tian had already stood up and walked back. When Northcliffe fell into despair once more and couldn't hold back his tears, Yang Tian calmly said, "You're missing 3 key runes, but you can try. There are more than 3,000 runes that could be used to record coordinates." After eliminating some unnecessary ones, there were still half left. It'll take some time. If you're lucky, it'll take about half a year. After saying that, Yang Tian sat on the ground and took out a pile of yellow bricks from his storage bracelet. Then he took out a glyph pen and some knives and got busy. Northcliffe finally had hope again. He looked at Yang Tian and laughed. According to Ketlastar's time, half a month later, the 3 human corpses in the underground palace had been buried by Northcliffe. As for the 2 beast corpses, they were chopped into pieces by the furious Northcliffe. Northcliffe told Yang Tian that these were raccoons, the most hated beast in the Star Sea. Not only did humans hate them, but other beasts also hated them. Because the raccoon beast had a fast reproduction rate, strong adaptability to the environment, low intelligence, and extremely aggressive, it wouldn't take long for them to destroy the islands that they had conquered. These beasts would eat anything. After eating up an island, they would go to the next one until they were destroyed. This survival habit was not inferior to that of the insects. Fortunately, raccoons were easier to destroy compared to the insects. After encountering powerful beasts, they were usually wiped out. It was common to see raccoons rampaging in the Sea of Stars, but no one knew where these beasts came from. It was as if they were being manipulated by an invisible hand. After listening to Northcliffe's description of the raccoons, Yang Tian could not help but frown. He felt that the raccoons that destroyed the island were most likely controlled. In other words, someone wanted to destroy the humans on the island. After half a month, Yang Tian finished carving the rune formation. The 3 missing runes were 3 out of more than 1,000 runes. Moreover, Yang Tian created over 100 of each of the 1,000 possible runes. Yang Tian asked Northcliffe to pry away all the stone slabs on the ground. Then, the little blue dragon used its dragon flames to flatten the ground dozens of times. With the help of his mind power, the little blue dragon used its dragon flames to flatten the ground. The difference in height was less than 0.1 millimeters. On the flat and smooth ground, Yang Tian placed the yellow bricks that were carved with runes on the ground. With the help of Yang Tian's mind power, the size of each yellow brick that he repaired was within the margin of error. After the rune formation was placed and there were no errors, Yang Tian placed 3 finger-sized cubes into the rune formation. Then, he placed 3 beast cores. With energy, the teleportation rune formation immediately lit up with blue light. Seeing this situation, Northcliffe chuckled. Slap! Unexpectedly, in less than 10 seconds after the rune circle lit up, the 3 yellow square stones with only 1 rune engraved on them jumped out of the rune circle and shattered in a powder in the air. The 3 runes are wrong. After the teleportation formation is activated, the teleportation location cannot receive energy, Yang Tian said with a frown. Next, Yang Tian placed 3 cubes with runes on them into the rune formation. Slap, slap, slap. Every time the rune formation was activated, within 5 to 10 seconds, the cubes that were embedded in the rune formation would jump out and shatter in the air. This was something that could not be helped. Without the 3 crucial runes, he could only try them one by one. This could only be done with the help of the Strange program. If other rune masters were to encounter this situation, they would have given up immediately. The precision of the rune formation was no less than that of an electronic device. If there was even the slightest problem, it would not work properly. He tried more and more. Seeing the continuous failures, Northcliffe became more and more anxious. As for Yang Tian, just like before, he remained calm. He knew that with each failure, the combination of the 3 runes would reduce the number of attempts, and he would be 1 step closer to success. 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times. After the 1,521st attempt, The rune formation finally lit up, and the energy of the three beast cores was quickly consumed. Finally, it was done. There was nothing left to pack. Yang Tian snapped his fingers at the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon that was lying on the side jumped up and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Bea, it's time to go. After saying that, Yang Tian walked into the teleportation circle. Bea was stunned for a moment. When he realized that Yang Tian had disappeared from the rune formation, he quickly regained his senses and rushed into the teleportation circle. Boom! When Yang Tian walked out of the teleportation circle, a thick black shadow fell from the sky and landed not far away, causing the ground to shake. Yang Tian raised his head and saw that it was a dragon's claw. When he looked up, he saw a gigantic black dragon's head. The black dragon opened its eyes wide, and one of its whiskers swept toward Yang Tian. Roar! The dragon's whisker was at least 3 meters thick. When it swept, it created a gust of wind. Yang Tian had never seen such a huge dragon. It was at least a few hundred meters long. The black dragon did not have any intention of harming Yang Tian. Its dragon whiskers brushed past Yang Tian. Its pair of large dragon eyes were filled with ridicule. To it, Yang Tian was like a new toy that had suddenly appeared. Yang Tian stood still in the midst of the wind created by the dragon's whiskers. It was as if his feet were rooted to the ground. But it was different for Bea. As soon as he appeared, he was swept into the sky by the wind and was swept far away. Bea's cries were powerless in the wind. His voice and his tiny figure quickly disappeared behind a mountain. Chapter 879. Seeing that Yang Tian was not blown away by the airflow caused by the dragon whiskers, the black dragon's giant eyes were filled with surprise. It stared at Yang Tian and sized him up. Finally, its gaze landed on the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder. The little blue dragon stared into the black dragon's eyes, its eyes filled with dissatisfaction. From its point of view, this black dragon was just a little bigger than the rest. The black dragon's aura could not suppress it. This dragon is so big. At this time, Bea, who had been blown away by the airflow, finally reached Yang Tian's side and said while panting, "Roar!" Suddenly, the black dragon opened its mouth and let out a roar. The airflow that came out of its mouth was much more violent than the airflow caused by the dragon whiskers. With a boom, the teleportation talisman behind Yang Tian was blown into pieces by the airflow. Bea, who had been blown away, hid behind Yang Tian and grabbed onto Yang Tian's clothes tightly. Soon, he realized that the airflow around him was not very fast. It turned out that Yang Tian had used his spiritual energy to protect himself. This airflow might be able to blow a few tons of rocks into the air, but it could not cause any harm to Yang Tian. In the eyes of the little blue dragon, the black dragon was the lowest level of existence among the dragon tribe. When it first saw the black dragon, the little blue dragon was very excited. But soon, it became unhappy because this guy did not even take it seriously. Not only that, but he even roared at it. This was too rude. Before the black dragon could finish its words, the little blue dragon jumped up from Yang Tian's shoulder and flew 100 meters into the air, transforming into a giant dragon that was more than 50 meters long. At this time, the little blue dragon's size was still much smaller than the black dragon's. Strength didn't mean that the bigger you were, the more powerful you were. The little blue dragon, who had transformed into a giant dragon, flew above the black dragon's head and slapped down with its claw. The black dragon raised his head slightly. The two dragon whiskers by his lips swayed and swept towards the little blue dragon. The sound of the airflow caused by the two dragon whiskers was even louder than before. Just now, when the black dragon saw Yang Tian appear, it was just playing around. And now it was going to attack the little blue dragon. At this moment, the black dragon still didn't look at the little blue dragon in the eye. He thought that he could restrain the little blue dragon with his two dragon whiskers and then teach it a lesson. In the face of the two dragon whiskers, the little azure dragon shook its head, opened its mouth, and bit one of the dragon whiskers. Then, one of its front claws opened and closed and grabbed the other dragon whisker. After grabbing the two dragon whiskers of the black dragon, the little azure dragon flew straight up. The upper body of the black dragon that was lying on the ground was pulled by the two dragon whiskers and stood up. The black dragon didn't expect the little blue dragon's strength to be so strong. He couldn't react in time and could only grab a small hill under him. Boom! With a loud noise, the black dragon's huge body rose from the ground. The small hill that it was hugging was broken in the middle. When the black dragon's body was lifted off the ground, it was spun around in the air by the little blue dragon and then slammed into the ground. Boom! There was a loud noise. The hard rock ground was smashed into pieces by the black dragon's huge body and trembled. The little blue dragon's move was very similar to a human's shoulder throw. Looking at the black dragon that was smashed to the ground, the little blue dragon's eyes showed a look of contempt. This was the price the black dragon had to pay for showing its strength in front of it. The black dragon was not injured. It was just that it was thrown to the ground by the little blue dragon and looked embarrassed. Roar! In the midst of the dust, the black dragon let out a roar and stood up. It shook its huge body to get rid of the sand on it. After being thrown to the ground by the little blue dragon, the black dragon was furious. It let out a low roar that was filled with anger. The little blue dragon in the air lowered its head and looked at the black dragon coldly. While its body was half the size of the black dragon, its aura was much stronger than the black dragon's. The little blue dragon used its actions to prove that it wasn't just a matter of size that was strong. Xiaolong's strength has increased by quite a bit. Seeing the situation, Yang Tian mumbled to himself. At this time, Yang Tian had already pulled Bea 100 meters away. Otherwise, they would have definitely become the black dragon scapegoat. Hearing Yang Tian mumbling to himself, Bea asked curiously, "Is it because Xiaolong swallowed that ball of light?" Yang Tian nodded. Only he and the strange program knew. Compared to the energy that the little blue dragon absorbed from the ball of light, the energy of the two king bugs is far inferior. However, it would take a long time for the little blue dragon to digest the power of the ball of light. If it could fight non-stop, the process would be greatly shortened. After letting out a furious roar, the black dragon soared into the sky. It opened its mouth and spat out a black flame toward the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon also opened its mouth and stretched its neck. Whoosh! A large ball of golden dragon flame was spat out from its mouth and clashed with the black dragon flame. Boom! When the two colors of dragon flames came into contact with each other, a muffled sonic boom was heard. It was like a muffled clap of thunder. The quality of the black dragon flame could not be compared to the golden dragon flame from the little blue dragon. While the black dragon flame could cover a large area, it was still forced back by the golden dragon flame. Seeing that the golden dragon flame was getting closer and closer, the black dragon's eyes were filled with fear. It closed its mouth, swung its tail, and dove toward the ground. With a boom, the golden dragon flame swept past the black dragon's back. With a sizzling sound, the black dragon's mane on its back was burned off, making it look like a mess. Ha ha! Yang Tian pursed his lips and smiled when he saw the situation while Bea laughed out loud. When the black dragon landed on the ground, it heard Bea's laughter. It turned around and stared at Yang Tian and Bea coldly. Yang Tian still had a smile on his face, but Bea quickly covered his mouth in fear. Whoosh! Suddenly, one of the black dragon's whiskers swayed and shot toward Yang Tian. The whisker was several meters thick and had a sharp tip. When it was shot toward Yang Tian, it was like a sharp arrow. Yang Tian looked at the incoming black dragon whiskers and raised his right hand, grabbing onto the dragon whiskers. At this time, Yang Tian's right hand had turned into a dragon's claw. All 5 of his fingers were stuck into the whisker. Seeing that Yang Tian could easily stop its whisker, the black dragon opened its eyes and increased its strength. At this time, the curved whisker had become extremely hard. A powerful energy flowed through the whisker and headed toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian smiled as he channeled the source energy within his body through the dragon whiskers. Slap! Yang Tian's origin force and the black dragon's energy clashed in the whisker. The whisker could not withstand it and broke. Whoosh! Unwilling to give up, the black dragon used another whisker and shot it toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian clasped his hands together and hugged the dragon whisker. After that, Yang Tian jumped up into the air and swung the thick dragon whisker with all his might. Boom! The black dragon's gigantic body was once again lifted off the ground. It spun around in the air and then slammed into the ground. Yang Tian had once again used his actions to prove that the bigger one was, the more powerful one was. The black dragon that had been swung around again rolled up from the ground. It then raised its head and let out a roar. Before it could even finish its roar, there were 4 dragon roars in the distance. There were 4 more dragons. When Yang Tian and the little blue dragon heard the 4 dragon roars, their eyes widened. Very quickly, 4 black dots appeared in the distance. In the blink of an eye, the 4 dots turned into 4 dragons. These 4 dragons were of different colors. They were white, red, green, and blue. Including the black dragon in front of them, there were 5 dragons of different colors. Seeing the appearance of 4 more dragons, the little blue dragon became even more excited. At this moment, it felt that it was very close to home. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.